Have your attention, please. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome to November 19th, 2007 Lowell Planning Board meeting. First matter on the agenda tonight is we have the approval of our minutes. We have two sets of minutes tonight for our consideration, one being from the October 15th, 2007 meeting. Any of the board members have any corrections or omissions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That matter is approved. The minutes are approved. Second matter will be the minutes for the November 5th, 2007 Planning Board meeting. Board members have any omissions or corrections to be added or deleted?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the November 5th Planning Board meeting.
Second.
Minutes.
Mr. Chairman, please list me as abstaining on that vote. I wasn't at the
Okay,
meeting.
so therefore, the motion is made and second, all in favor, so we have 4 in favor and 1 abstention. Mr. Gentleman was not present at that meeting, therefore he's not voting on the minutes. Okay, moving along, we do have a few different matters on tonight's agenda. We do have 3 public hearings, 2 pre-application matters. We have old business, we have a letter of credit for release from Varnum Ave. And we have our green building discussion was continued, and we have notices from abutting towns, as well as the zoning board of appeals legal notices. Do we have anybody here from the city who was here on the Enchanted Forest, who was here tonight on that project?
Not from the city.
Okay,
From the neighborhood group, the Friends of the Forest.
okay, all right.
Okay.
Because I know we had some notification from the city department, so I just wanted to see who was here before we get to that matter. Okay. Let me just, before we go further, Jerry, you received the communication on that late this afternoon. Is that something that you want to share with us when we address that now before we start the public hearings, or?
I think it might be helpful, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I believe Aaron may have,
Copies? Sure.
may have
At
copies.
this point in time, what I'll do is we can just take make a motion to take the order of agenda out of hearing, to hear from the old business on a release, if we have people here to speak on that matter, or that matter has been continued before, if we could just address that. I know we received some updated information from the city department, which all the board members haven't received because some of the emails came in around 5 o'clock this evening. Aaron, could you give us an update on that?
Yeah, if I could find it.
So this is the matter about a letter of credit being released for the Enchanted Forest at 1415 Varnum Ave. The board will discuss the release of a letter of credit being held for the Enchanted Forest subdivision. I know at the last meeting came in for release. At that point in time, Mr. Fischette requested that we continue the matter to double check if we could go over the planning board minutes as well as the Conservation Commission minutes of their meetings to see if all the conditions have been satisfied. Since then, we have had some communication from city departments, and I believe our most recent one came in this afternoon that all the board members haven't had a chance to see as of yet.
Mr. Chairman, I have a copy of it.
Yeah, I don't think I actually have a copy with me.
Could you pass it down to Aaron and see if that's the communication he received?
Yeah, this is it, yeah.
Okay. Go on, board members, just want to take a look at that before we begin, or I can pass it along. Who's here on behalf of the Enchanted Forest? Okay. Who else is? Mr. Flood, you're here
I'm the
too?
developer. I'm
Okay.
the original developer of the...
Okay. Mr. Flood, why don't we hear from you first then, okay?
Well,
Then I'll listen to anybody else, okay?
I mean, I had sent the request for the release of the letter of credit. We have had the streets accepted by the city. Deed has been recorded. We've had the Conservation Commission. I've gone through the decision of the planning board when this was approved, and we've met all of those conditions, and as you people can appreciate, the original letter of credit was posted to satisfy these requirements. I have heard no complaints from anybody regarding anything up there, and now I understand that something has come up at the last minute. I don't think it has anything to do with the original development, and I don't know what your letter says, Mr. Chairman, but
Okay, I'm
I
just
think we've
receiving it now.
satisfied all the requirements that the decision calls for, and you know, you're holding a considerable letter of credit that you've had for a long period of time. And like I said, the streets have been accepted, the conservation has signed off, and I'd like to get that letter of credit released.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else, Mr. Flood? No? Okay. Yes, sir. You just come to the microphone and state your name and address for us, please.
My name's Stephen Massey, representing the Friends of the Forest.
Okay. And what's your concerns in regards to this release?
I'm representing Mehmet Ali, who couldn't be here tonight. So I have that form in front of me that I believe you have in front of you with several
Okay.
points. The Friends of the Forest basically took possession of the common land around the subdivision from the developer. And if you read the first part there, it was originally thought that we would not be responsible for any catch basins. I believe there's 3 catch basins or detention basins there, and 2 of them are in the development. One of them appears to be on this parcel of land, this common land that we took possession of. And it has not been clarified whether we are responsible for clearing these. It was always our understanding that our organization wasn't going to be responsible for maintaining that catch basin. And there's no language to that effect was ever put in any of the agreements, or at least not the final agreement.
Okay.
So that's one big thing. A couple of smaller items is 2 houses on Charant Road at 125, the house at either 125, also known as 123. Basically, the driveway was made a lot wider than it was supposed to be, and it kind of encroaches our access point that we have there. I believe we have a 12 or 20-foot easement or deeded way in at the end of Charant, and that driveway kind of goes over that. And the abutting property at 126 also has an encroachment issue with the lawn going up to and over our property. House number 126, Charant, also has an encroachment issue to the rear where they have taken down trees and put in lawn beyond their property line and up onto our property. And those are the 2 big things. We're just trying to make sure that we don't have to be liable as a nonprofit organization for maintaining a catch basin that's on this property. There should be some sort of a codicil to the deed to us that basically states that we don't have to do that the homeowners association would handle that issue.
Thank you,
And
sir.
currently, I'm not even sure if we're the record owner right now. I don't find any recorded deed on that, but if it has not been recorded as of yet, we could probably just modify that deed pretty simply. Other than that, those are the three big things we just wanted to try and satisfy.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
Okay?
Can I respond, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman? As far as that deed is concerned, I know, it's not mine.
Oh, okay.
I know it was delivered and a check was delivered because I think Mr. Fischett delivered it, and that's going back 2 or 3 years ago. They got a deed to a parcel of property which would include everything that's in it. Now, I don't know if there's a catch basin on it, but if there's a problem, I'm sure the city would probably work with them because they've accepted the roadways. As far as the encroachments are concerned, that has nothing to do with the developer. He just did the roadways, he did the public improvements, he didn't build the houses. The lots were sold to someone else and they sold them. If they have a problem, they can contact the homeowners. But as far as the improvements to the subdivision are concerned, they were done. We conveyed the property and we gave them we gave the Friends additional funds, which I don't think the decision called for. But I just don't think that has anything to do with the original developers, Mr. Chairman. And once again, I'd ask that letter of credit be released. And I don't think you have the right to hold it back for those reasons, because if there's something on that property, they own it. And if they had a concern about it, they should have brought it up before. But everything was delivered, everything was done in accordance with the original approval, and it's been a long time. So.
Thank you, Counselor. Yeah, no, I'll listen to this young lady first. Go ahead, ma'am.
Linda Ignacio, 66 Shirley Ave, and I'm also with the Friends of the Forest. The Friends of the Forest have been communicating with George Proakis regularly looking for a letter releasing our responsibilities for the culvert, the maintaining of the culverts. And we set up this corporation to accept the land. However, we're paying almost $1,000 a year for insurance for this piece of land just to keep it as open space. If we have to assume responsibility for the culverts in case of flooding or damages to the properties, there's no sense in us having the land.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir, I hear from you one more time, then I'm going to turn over to the board members.
Through you to the council, I just want to know if he has a record book and page for the deed to our organization on that parcel.
I don't know, I just delivered it. I think Jerry delivered it.
Okay, I'm just not sure that we actually own the
Okay.
parcel is all I'm saying. We may not
Well-
actually have possession.
Whether it's recorded or not, you still would have the ownership? A deed is
well,
still
that's-
valid,
that's the only
even if it's
question.
not recorded?
Yep.
Okay, I mean,
Okay.
okay, thank you. Okay. Any of the board members have any questions on this? Let me start with Jerry, seems like your name's popping up the most.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, Mr. Fischett, go ahead, please.
Just, and I want to go back just briefly. This was a planned residential development. The only one, the other one in the city is the Julian Steel. And there was some issue with the open space. The state originally looked like, well, originally it was going to be Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust. And then when this project started to gather some life, and it looked like it was going to go in the direction of a planned residential development, preserving some of the open space, Parks and Conservation Trust was looking for the developer to give them fairly substantial amount of money for them to maintain the property. The petitioner went back to the planning board, and at the time, the original approval called for the state to take the open space after Parks and Conservation really walked away from it. And what happened was the state did not want the property. So the developer came back to the planning board and asked for that condition to be revised to allow the developer to put the open space or the open space itself into the hands of the association, homeowners association. And in the meantime, what happened is the Friends of the Forest stepped up to the plate and offered to take the open space, but not the detention areas. What happened is that the homeowners association was formed to maintain the detention ponds that are on that site. And at least, and I certainly was involved at that time, I know the Friends had no understanding that any of the drainage issues that were relative to that site, whether it be detention areas or basin areas, that they would be responsible for it. This was going to be the 6.85 acres that is upland up in the back, or I believe it's 6.85 acres. And this has come up. I really would like some clarification. As far as I'm concerned, everybody was trying to make the best out of a situation here that didn't come out the way we had wanted it to originally. And the Friends did step up to the plate and offer to take this open space so that it could be preserved, added to the state forest. And is correct, Mr. Flood, we had, matter of fact, a ribbon cutting up there, and the builder at the time did provide some funds to the Friends to assist in their maintenance of the property. The concern that I have is the potential. It was never, clearly in this process, it was never intended for the Friends of the Forest to have any of that, the potential liability that appears to exist here. I, at the very least, would like a clarification for that organization. And really, coming back to the driveways, as far as the individual being responsible, this comes back to, Mr. Chairman, it was something that I had argued before this board. It's a planned residential development. Right in the zoning code, this board had every right to ask for the placement of the homes on the site, the landscaping, how it was going to be situated on the site. This was a concern of mine. It's right in the zoning code. They provided that for Julian Steel when that was approved. And that was not the case with this particular development, and it was treated as if they were individual homes on an individual lots, and they did get deeded lots, there's no question about that. But clearly, when you're looking at the relief for setbacks, the relief for frontage, the relief for lot size, it becomes that much more important to really control how those properties are going to sit, how those homes, the driveways are going to lay out on those lots. Again, I would like some clarification. I don't even know if this is correct, but this is a case where it appears that perhaps one of the driveways is in the open space. And once again, it was never the intention for the open space, whoever took that open space, unless it was the homeowners association, because the homeowners association was specifically set up to handle the detention areas. And that's my understanding of that, and I think at least a clarification of these items I would like to see. Now, I understand from the conservation's perspective, they had put conditions on that. I actually walked the site as well. I think that those were, have all been satisfied. I think conservation had issued their certificate of compliance on this. But I'm concerned with these two particular issues, and somehow I would like for the actions of this board to somehow be able to provide an outlet for this to be addressed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fish. Excuse me, thank you, Mr. Fischette. Any other board members have any questions?
I have one, Mr. Chairman, if I might. In looking over the conditions back when Enchanted Forest was approved, one of the conditions was the developer will create a homeowners association to own and maintain the drainage systems, the documents for the association subject to approval of the City of Lowell. When we're talking about the catch basins, are we talking about something separate from the drainage systems that are maintained by the homeowners association?
There are two detention basins that the homeowners association took title to. They're on either side of the entrance into the project. That's what we did, that's what we were told to do. We've done that. I don't know any catch basins in the roadway the city should be responsible for because they've accepted the roadways. Now, I don't know what drainage is on the open space that the Friends of the Forest have. I have a copy of the plan here. I don't see any drainage line in there or anything, so I don't know, but they took title to it, and
But it looks like there is a drainage system there that a homeowners association is supposed to maintain.
Absolutely,
I'm just
and
not
that's-
certain if that includes the catch basins that Friends of the Forest are talking about, or if that is a separate issue.
it very well could be, Joe, but, I mean, if these people have been talking to George Proakis never contacted me. I've got someone that's done the work 3 years ago and wants a release of his bond. All the homes have been sold out, and I think all of the work that we were supposed to do has been done. Now, I think that can be worked out with the homeowners trust, and as far as the driveway is concerned, if there's an encroachment, tell them to remove it. My guy did not do that. They sold those lots out, and there was a builder in there that did that, so. And I don't think that has anything to do with the bond that this.
No, I understand that point. I think the issue in my mind is the maintenance of the drainage system and the catch basins, who's responsible for what. So it sounds like there's been some conversations with George Proakis. I noticed he was involved in this email that came in tonight as well. So perhaps my suggestion is maybe we put this off for 2 weeks, have a conversation with George, where does this thing sit, and take a look at the plan, and what are the catch basins that we're talking about, and who's responsible for them?
Well, my problem with that, Joe, is you're holding up $300,000 for another 2 weeks, and he's been paying interest on it all along, so.
No, I
mean, what-
understand your point,
what's
but
the
I
cost
mean,
of
we
that?
got information at 5 o'clock tonight that we didn't
Well,
have before, so.
You got it. I didn't, but no one's contacted me either.
No,
And
I
that's what
understand.
kind of bothers me, because they knew I was involved in it.
I understand. Yeah. So, yeah, my suggestion is that we do continue this matter for 2 weeks, so that we can refer this matter to George and to the legal department and make some determinations as to who's responsible for what. So, I'd make that in the form of a motion.
Motion is made. Any further discussion by planning board members?
At one point,
Mr. Lockhart?
seems the documentation here is a little mixed up. It concerns me, there are some important issues that are outstanding here. Is there an as-built set of drawings that can be looked at, as opposed to the design plans?
We had to do that, Mr. Lockhart, to get the roadways accepted and also for the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I mean,
They're not gonna release it without an as-built.
these things should be able to be proven right or wrong very easily.
They have the as-bills, the Conservation Commission and the engineers have them.
And the other thing was the recorded deed for the transfer of the property can't be found.
I have not, I
Now,
don't know.
that seems like
any-
a pretty basic document. I would like to see that.
I delivered it. I delivered the deed.
Yeah,
It's their responsibility to record it, Mr. Lockhart.
well, I don't know, that's what the paper said. That bothers me.
They might have lost it. I don't know.
I would second the motion on the floor.
Chairman, can I just
Sure.
interject here a little bit about conversations that have been had with George Proakis? About a month and a half ago, I did some research into this project about who would be taking care of whose job it was to maintain the detention basins. I looked into it, and there's two detention basins that are at the entrance, I believe, to the site. And it's pretty clear what I told George was it's pretty clear that the homeowners association has the responsibility to take care of that. In fact, it's in the decision that Member Claremont pointed out. It seems like there's a question that the two detention basins that are there, who's taking care of them? And it seems pretty clear that it's a homeowners association that's supposed to be created that takes care of those. And so that's basically what me and George had discussed about a month and a half ago now, whether or not that's made it way back to the Friends of the Forest. There's clearly some confusion still as to who takes care of what. But if it's about those detention ponds, it's the homeowners association. That's as far as the maintenance issue.
Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking the two down here. Yeah.
That's correct.
I don't see any up here, so I'll talk to them when we're done.
Without further discussion, that motion stand. Anybody want any further discussion on that? If not, the motion is to continue for 2 weeks to get clarification from the Division Plan of Development, Mr. Proakis, and also have the matter referred to the Law Department, and come back here from 2 weeks from tonight. Motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Motion carries. Everybody vote is 5-0 in favor. Thank you.
Can we be early when we
Good
come
luck.
back to?
Moving along, we move along to our public hearings. First matter on the public hearing is 868 Middlesex Street. A public hearing will be held to hear all interested persons relative to an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals by Juan Mejia for a parking variance required to develop a property at 868 Middlesex Street for religious purposes. On January 8th, 2007, the Zoning Board took an unfavorable action on the previous proposal at that site. In order for the Zoning Board of Appeals to consider the merits of this new application, the Planning Board must consent that the new application contains specific and material changes from the first application. The Planning Board will take this vote at the conclusion of the public hearing. Also, the matter also is before us tonight for what's known as the pre-application stage. So what I'd like to do is, we'll do the public hearing if we could on 868 Middlesex Street. We'll hear from the applicant first. If you could tell us what the old plan was and what your new plan is. After we hear all the issues on the public hearing on that, then maybe we'll move right to your pre-application session instead of have to adjourn, take 2 other matters and bring you back up if there's no problems with that. Okay? So state that, could you please state your name and address for the record if you would please, sir?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and the board. My name is Mr. Juan M. Mejia, pastor of Pentecostal Missionary Church in the city of Lowell. We are here because we came in front of the board. We did drastic changes from the first application that we applied to for variance for parking. On this new application that we have submitted, we are tearing down one whole building, and if it's okay for me to approach the board, I would like to give you copies of.
You can come ahead, sir. Is the old copy or the new copy?
These are the new copies.
Okay.
I don't have copies of the old ones. I think
Well,
this is supposed to be in the...
Because we have to decide if the new one substantially changed from the old one.
There was no drastic change in the old ones, on the new ones. It was just a variance. Sorry.
Part of the building. So, yeah.
Okay. Can you get that one to Aaron if you would, or Aaron, do you need one? Do you have a copy? Sure. Joe and I can look at this one together. Thank you.
Okay. And it, for the board, there should be a copy of the original
Okay.
Site plan if you
In
want
the
to.
pocket, yeah, I wanted to see it.
Just to compare the two.
Okay.
There should be a copy of the original. Which
Okay.
you have. On the first original copy, we were not demolishing the building, the system building. We were just looking for variance for the parking. Fortunately, we couldn't. The zoning board denied it. We took the decision of tearing one of the buildings. And if you look at the copy that I just finished giving you, the blank here is an existing building that's not going to be there no more. It's just going to be all parking. And this is the existing building as it is right now. So the dramatic change that we did to this site is that we are demolishing one whole side of the building, leaving just one building standing up, occupying this whole section for parking. We went in front of the zoning board. They had approved that it was the changes to this development of the property on 68 Middlesex Street by tearing down the building and creating almost 36 parkings for the existing building standing right now.
Just to clarify, you're saying when that building comes down, it would create an additional 36?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, sir?
No, that'll be it.
Okay. Do you have anybody else with you on behalf of the applicant who wants to speak before I turn it over to the public?
Yes.
Okay. If they could just come forward and cut the microphone? You're on behalf of the applicant, or do you just want to speak in favor?
In favor.
Okay. First, I asked if you have anybody else on your behalf as the applicant who wants to speak before I turn it over to a public hearing. Okay. So at this point in time, after hearing from the applicant, I will turn it over to the public. Anybody here like to speak in favor of the project, please? Just come forward and state your name and address. Anybody who wants to speak in favor? If you come to the microphone, just state your name and address and tell us what you'd like us to consider, why we should like to speak in favor of the application. Thank you.
My name is Tanya Cruz. I live in 244 West 6th Street in Lowell. I'm supportive because where we at now, it's a little bit, it's not the parking issue, plus I support my pastor because he wants to make it comfortable for us, plus the people that lives around that area too. And I support him. I have a lot of faith in him, and because of the faith and the love that he has for God, and that's pretty much like to see the church grow.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming forward. Anybody else like to speak in favor? Yes, ma'am. If you can step up to the microphone, please.
Could you sign in too when you write your name in?
He likes to sign in sheet, so when he does the minutes later for us, we know who was here. In case if he doesn't catch the correct name or spelling, he can go by the sheet. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Laura de Jesus, and I used to live at 861 Middlesex Street, which is right across from the place. And I used to live there for 2 years. I just moved to 185 Moody, and I've been there for 5 years. And I support him for the fact that this changed my life completely, this small church, and the love and the people that were there. And I think that the way this church has changed my life, I'm pretty sure there's people out there that are waiting for that change to come to them. And I think that it will be very, very good for the community and for the people that live around there. I think this will be a great, great opportunity for people to change their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else like to speak in favor?
Hi, my name is Ruth Medina. I'm approved. I'm beside him. He's my pastor. And I believe what he's doing everything. And it is going to be good for the community around there because it's more kids they're going to need and they're going to study. It's a very room. They're going to have their own room to study what they have to study in church. And they're going to learn a lot about Jesus. And I'm approved of that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in favor? Yes, sir. If you come to the microphone, please. You state your name and address for record.
Hello, my name is Jose Cruz. I live in 244 West 6, and I'm in favor of Pastor Jen because the place. I'm a member of the congregation where we are right now, and right now the place where we at is not comfortable at all. First of all, because the parking is not safe, and the project where we present right now, I see more space for the parking, more comfortable for the people, and I think that's what we need in Lowell. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anybody like to speak in opposition?
Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, ladies and gentlemen, you have to excuse my voice. My name is Mark Coleman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I think we're putting the cart before the horse here. If you notice under your new business, under pre-application session, it reads project address 868 Middlesex Street in the applicant's name. And it states project redevelopment of existing commercial and industrial property into a church and 4 residential units, zoning TMU, required review, site plan review. I believe that you should be doing that, having a public hearing on that first before this matter is actually voted on by you to refer to the ZBA. I think you're putting that. I think the cart's being put in front of the horse on this, and I think that the pre-application session and that part of it, then that public hearing should come before this. So I would ask that this matter be continued until that project comes before you fully, because if it's not passed, then for all intents and purposes, they'll knock down the building with parking for no church that's not been passed, not been approved by the planning board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anybody else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Just to reiterate, what's before us here tonight is just to decide if the plan that went before the Zoning Board of Appeals back on January 8th of '07, if that plan has substantially changed from this new plan. So what happens is, it had to come before us after that plan was denied. When it came before us under our Zoning Board of Appeal recommendation packet, the matter went before the Zoning Board of Appeals. At that point in time, the applicant indicated that the Zoning Board of Appeals indicated that there was specific and material change. Therefore, if they felt that, then it comes back to us. If we find that there's specific and material change, then the matter will go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals for public hearing there. If we decide there's not a specific and material change, then the matter does not go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals because it hasn't met the requirement of passing both boards. So to get into the construction of the building, that would be for another day and another time. This is just if there's enough for the matter to go forward that there has been a substantial material change. For the applicant to bring it back before us, they have a 2-year window period to do so to see if the change happens. So by voting on a specific and material change one way or another, that does not mean we're endorsing the plan by one way or another, because that's not what's in front of us. The pre-application stand that we would pick up later is not a public hearing, and that is just for the applicant to give us some information, and he put on the agenda for tonight. So whether we vote for this or against this, he still has the right to tell us what he would like to do on the pre-application if the matter comes in. Then that matter will have to come before us on a public hearing to decide all the concerns about the parking, whether it would be good for the neighborhood, whether we have all the drainage plans and all the calculations, what size of church he's going to put in there, what size of residential unit's going to be in. Then we look at what's known as a site plan. So this is just to be trying to get this mechanism back before the Zoning Board of Appeals and back before us. So the main thing is just whether there's been a specific and material change. And then if it has, then he has the right to come back in for a new variance before the Zoning Board of Appeals, a new board here before us on the site plan. So that's the main consideration we have, not whether we feel the church is appropriate in that area or not, whether we feel the parking is significant or not, whether that was addressed before, just basically if the plan has changed enough for us to reconsider what the determination had been done before. So saying that, I'll turn it over to any of the board's comments at this point in time. Any of the board members have any questions or concerns?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Lockhart, go ahead, please.
Just need a clarification. You say you're gonna, well, the two plans, the old plan and the new plan, I'm having difficulty seeing how the building is oriented on the lot there. And exactly which portion of the building is you're proposing to tear down.
It's gonna be the two proportions of the building. The proportion where it's a Middlesex Street is to the left of my right. It's going to be coming down. The existing building is the one on Quincy Street and Middlesex
Right
Street.
on that corner.
That corner right there.
Okay.
So it basically is going to be the one in Middlesex Street. That's the portion that it's going to be coming down. There's three portions. This existing parcel has three streets. Has Middlesex Street, Quincy Street, and Branch Street in the back. Because you could access to this parcel to the back of Branch Street, which it has a variance to go into the parcel to where the fire department is right now. So the building that's going to be coming down is the building facing Middlesex and Branch Street.
Middlesex and Branch Street. Can you just orient me on this print, where the streets are?
On your color print, if you could hold that up?
Yeah, the new one. I'm still having difficulty.
This is the system building on Middlesex Street,
Okay, and the loading docks are in
and
the
this is
middle.
Branch Street.
Okay.
This is the
I can
corner
see it now.
building that's going to be still there.
All right, so the one on the left is coming down.
Exactly. The
All right.
reason we're tearing this one, it's an old building, it's old wooden beams.
Yeah. No, I
It's
saw
not
it.
safe, so we just make the decision of tearing it down.
So on your
Okay.
old plan, you didn't propose to tear that down for the parking?
No, because we,
Yeah, that was-
in the
so-
back
yeah,
of Branch
that's-
Street,
gotcha.
Huge
there was
point.
12, 16 parkings available, plus there was some parking up front, but they zoning has told her it was not enough parking
Okay.
to enter to the building.
So your argument is, with tearing the new building down, and creating all that parking, that's your substantial material change to add all that new parking
That
to
is
your site?
correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anything else? Rich?
No, I'm all set.
Any other board members have comments or concerns? Yes,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Chairman?
just to clarify, we're creating 36 additional parking spots if you were to remove the building?
That is correct.
Right.
If you don't mind, I have some pictures if you want me to.
I'm all
The board wants
set.
to look at them. I'm very familiar with the site. I've been
So,
there 3 times.
just to reiterate, Mr. Chairman, doesn't really matter that there's a pre-application session hearing on, doesn't really matter that this gentleman's a wonderful pastor, which I'm sure you are. The only thing on the agenda tonight is, does this proposal provide a specific and material change to the previous application?
Exactly.
The previous application was denied because of parking concerns. This proposal would remove a building and add 36 parking spaces. So I don't think you get any more specific and material than that. So I would recommend that we approve this proposal and put that in the form of a motion, that we approve the proposal and that this application does contain specific and material changes and allow this gentleman to reapply.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion from board members? I know we haven't heard from everybody as of yet. Mr. Fischett, do you have any questions?
okay.
No?
Not at this point.
Okay. The motion has been made and second that there is enough specific and material changes. Motion made, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Chair votes yes. So in regards to that matter, what will happen is now, this matter will go back before the Zoning Board of Appeals for their hearing, and then the matter will come back, if they approve that part, it will come back before us on the site plan requirement. Now, sir, do you want to be heard on your pre-application session, which is basically what a pre-application session is here for? And the planning board renders no decision or guarantees any further discussion, whether positive or negative, or no further decision, excuse me, on any project that receives pre-application review. This is a measure that the applicant can bring in, give us a pre-application plan, shows us what their intentions are, and the board members can make comments on it. The difference before the public hearing, if the matter goes back on a public hearing, all the plans are submitted to all the 6 department heads, which would be engineering, health department, the traffic committee, and all those plans are sent out to our 6 department heads. They all make comments on those. They all come back, and then we have another public hearing on the application that's coming forward. So the pre-application is an informative, which the applicant has a right to pursue, to come in and get some ideas from the board, put a matter before us as he's done tonight, another matter. Since we have the matter twice on our agenda, I thought it'd be easier if we could just hear from the applicant once. And now that the public hearing is closed to specific and material change, now the next pre-app does not require a vote. We do not give a vote, but since the applicant's at the mic now, is there anything you'd like to say further on your pre-application, or what you told us about taking the building down, adding the parking, anything else you'd like us to consider that you may be doing if you come back in the future, sir?
Yes, I made some copies of how the project is going to come out after it's done, and I would like to give you
You can
each
approach,
one.
sir.
What it's all about.
While he's passing that out, Chairman, that's actually already been to the ZBA for the repetitive petition, and they voted for it.
They already made it there? Okay.
It's already been there, so the next step would be, if Pastor Mejia wished to, would be site plan review.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure if they made it back to ZBA. They were pending that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
This is the project. After is, hopefully the city approves it. As you can see to the left side of the project, you see the vehicles parked. Also, you see green space where we know it's going to be developed. On the first part of it, it's a commercial building where they're going to be putting any kind of business there. On the second part is the whole church. On the third part is the 4 units that we want to build. Each unit is availability for 2 parking spaces, which is 8 parking spaces that we already have taken out. That leaves us with 32 parking spaces. One thing that I do want to bring up to the planning board is that church services is not every day. Church services is only Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays. Fridays once in a while, not all Fridays. So I just want to note for the fact that services are from 7 at night to 9 at night. The church is not going to be occupying all these parking spaces at all time. This is only an hourly parking space for the church, and it's going to be only from 7 to 9 at night. Saturdays, probably an event, a wedding. Not everybody gets married every day, so it's not going to be that parking is going to be full every day. So for the 4 units on top, there's going to be enough parking spaces, and for the commercial property, there's going to be enough parking spaces also. Also on the commercial property point of view, it's only going to be from 9 to 5. It's not going to be more assistance. So really, this open space here is going to be all open at all time, except for Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays that we have Mass.
Thank you, sir.
I would like the board hear your opinion on if there's any changes that I should consider making on this project. That's how come I took pictures as best I could. 2 different angles. I think for the neighborhood on this area, if you have driven by 668 Middlesex Street, I want to show you a picture of what's existing now. And I will give you this copy. It's an old warehouse. Now, right down Middlesex Street, they're building a brand-new parking lot. Very nice building. Now, this here is what I'm planning to do is going to look better on the neighborhood and also going to give more value on people's properties around their area. Also down Middlesex Street, there's a lot of new buildings. This is the only old building in Middlesex Street from this side of the area that makes it look yucky. So I want to do something good for the neighborhood, and I also want to do something good for the members of the church that live around the area. Oh.
Anything else, sir? Okay. Any of the board members have any questions at this point in time?
I have a couple of suggestions.
Okay. Mr. Lockhart, go ahead, please.
You've created a rather large impervious area here, and I think one thing you really have to pay attention to is the drainage on the site.
I'm sorry, sir?
You've created a large impervious area here. It's not penetrable, water can't penetrate through the asphalt or the roof area. And I think you need to pay attention to the drainage on the site closely. It's
Yes.
going to get looked at closely. And the other thing is, just some advice, I guess, is you got to pay attention to your snow removal plan, where you're going to put your snow, and your trash removal. If you got 4 residential units, a church, and some other space there, you're going to generate some debris, and you need to be able to deal with it. That's all.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other board members?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Claremont?
Just briefly, the plan that you handed out, the colored plan, does this represent how the building will be,
That represents how the church is going to be.
oh, it's going to be completed?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So you'll have a couple of offices, a large service area, study hall, dining area, function area, that type of
Exactly.
thing? Okay, all right.
That's what's going to be on the second floor of this assistant building right now, or what's going to be built.
All right. And the size of the building that you're taking down is what?
Cool. $5,622 square feet.
It's helpful, and obviously, when you come back with site plan, you'll have had an opportunity to line out the parking, prepare a landscaping plan, lighting, traffic flow, all those types of things.
That is correct.
That the board will have to look at. And I encourage you even to come back for another pre-application once you've got some thoughts in mind as to how you want to lay that out. Right now, it's all conceptual for us. We understand taking down that building and adding the parking is going to be a good thing, and it looks like, you're going to have a nice project there. But conceptually, I think in order to help you with your design, it would help to even come in on another pre-application with those thoughts in mind as to how that's all going to be laid out and where the landscaping is going to be and drainage and things of that nature, without necessarily coming in for the final hearing right off the bat.
Take that in consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Fischett?
Just, Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Claremont had a very good point. I think it would be helpful to the applicant, it would be helpful to the board as well, and I think would go a long way. I certainly, conceptually, you know, what's here looks visually pleasing, but obviously those other issues have to be taken into consideration. So I think that would be extremely helpful for the petitioner.
Thank you. Mr. Gentleman, any questions, concerns?
I was just wondering about any, it doesn't appear so, but it looks like the building you're tearing down is a mill, a red brick mill. Is that right?
It's an old warehouse.
Yeah. I don't anticipate there'd be any historic issues here,
I wouldn't think so.
but it's possible that somebody, that there may be some concern about the removal of a mill, a building that used to be a mill, because the city of Lowell is sensitive to that.
It's just, the building system right now it just used to be a old warehouse. They used to ship out antique pieces from China to CBS and all those other places. It's not really a mill. It was an old building.
Okay. Just raising that concern that has come up in the past when we try to tear down a structure, a mill building, because of the history of the city and that sort of thing. So something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Mr. Gentleman. Anything else, sir?
That's about it.
Well, good luck. Well, hopefully we'll see you in the future.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Moving along, we do have two public hearings. One is for a zoning amendment, and the other one is on 741 Merrimack Street. If I can just find out how many people are here for the zoning amendment? Okay. Okay, could you? No? If there's nobody here for the zoning amendment, what I'll do then, I'd like to move along, and if we could do the 741 Merrimack Street, if that's what the majority of people are here for. That way we can entertain the people who are present this evening, and then we can get back to the zoning amendment thereafter, if the board doesn't mind me taking that out of order.
No.
Okay. I will take the matter out of order. So what we'll do is, we will jump over to 741 Merrimack Street, and I'll read the advertisement while the applicant's setting up their plans. Okay, this is 741 Merrimack Street. A public hearing will be held to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Merrimack Real Estate Development Corporation for a special permit for the redevelopment of a property located at 725, 741, and 749 Merrimack Street. The proposal includes the redevelopment of a vacant church into 50 residential units and includes a parking lot on the corner of Merrimack and Aiken Street. The proposal is located on 3 lots totaling 56,687 square feet in a urban mixed-use zoning district. The project requires special permit review under Article 12, Table of Uses, and Section 8.1 for the conversion of an existing building of the zoning code.
Attorney James Harrington, representing Merrimack Real Estate Development Corp. I'll give you a little background, tell you how we got here.
Can I just check one thing? Is this, just to make sure the people who are watching, is this the St. Jean Baptist Church, correct? Is that the name of the church up there?
Yes.
Okay, just so the people in the neighborhood might be watching at home might know what church we're talking about.
And then-
if you go up and down Merrimack Street, there's quite a few.
And I think it was last the Nuestra Senora del Carmen.
Okay.
Afterwards, so.
So if you could just, go ahead, please, counsel, again, thank you.
This development involves the conversion of the former church, the Nuestra Senora del Carmen, into 50 residential units. We had actually been before the zoning board a little over a year and a half ago on this to obtain a variance to the lot area per dwelling. Just to try to explain how we got here. We've had this property under agreement for almost 2 years now. We've been working with the church. The church had several issues to work out, primarily with historic concerning windows and artifacts and some other items, and there's been some substantial delays involving their removal of artifacts and some other side matters that they had as well. So as a result, we've been delayed in our potential purchase of the property now for quite a long time. In the interim, what's happened is there's been some changes with the zoning bylaw. First, this was a use as of right, according to the table of uses, until just very recently, and it is actually just going into effect now, requiring a 7+ unit multifamily to obtain a special permit under Article 12. The other special permit we had before it was for under 8.1, where I think there was some confusion. We were actually still under the belief that we didn't need a special permit under 8.1, but there was some question, so we're fully prepared to request for that special permit as well. We're also before the zoning board for a variance to the lot area per dwelling again, because by the time we begin construction on this property, our variance lapsed once. We had it extended 6 months. That's going to lapse again, the first or second week in January, and we can't have that extended again. So we're starting over to get our variance over again, and also as a result of the lapse of time, we need additional variances because we no longer have the same protection as we had at the outset with regards to parking. To tell you a little bit about the project itself, it involves the restoration of the church. The construction is all going to be within the church, within the existing footprint of the church. It's going to involve substantial, costly renovations in the church to convert it into residential use. I think, a lot of the letters that you received, I know, in support of the project indicate that this is going to revitalize the neighborhood. It's going to address housing needs in the city, and it's going to prevent an historic landmark from otherwise sitting and decaying over time and without a beneficial use. So my client's prepared to invest substantial amount of money into restoring the property and converting into residential use. I also have, in addition to the letters you have, I have a few additional letters we'd like to submit from the Lowell Housing Authority, as well as two abutters to the property in support of the project.
Thank you, Ken. Good to see you again.
And I can address a couple of the concerns that were raised in some of the correspondence that was submitted. One of them had to do with the absence of a landscape plan at this time. Because this is within the historic district, we have received a historic permit, which is basically subject to the condition that we have everything that we do approved, anything you can imagine outside. So we're working with the historic also to develop a site plan that they're going to fully approve, as well as anything we do with regards to landscaping. There's a fence outside that we're going to be doing some restoration on, so we're working with historic on that. So that's the reason at this point why we haven't developed a detailed landscape plan for this. There's not a whole lot really going on outside. There's not a whole lot of area of grassy area outside of the church, and most of the work is going to be really limited to sprucing up what's there. Turning the grass areas into nicer grass areas and working with the existing landscaping, and then addressing any other concerns that historic might have. There was also mention of location of the dumpster. Again, we have to work with Historic on that, but our initial proposal to the Historic is going to be to locate it in the rear of the building and screen it accordingly. With that said, I guess we'll entertain any questions that the board might have. One more thing I guess I should add, with the parking is served by a parking lot adjacent across the street from the building. It's the same parking lot that was used by the church when the church was being used. And there's no construction or anything involved over in the parking. It's just going to be, maybe some repairs of the existing parking lot and some striping of the parking lot, but there's not going to be any new parking lots thrown in or any construction over on that end. So any of the substantial work is limited to the interior of the footprint of the building. That said, we'll open up for questions.
At this point in time, do you want to turn it over to somebody else on behalf of the applicant to give us a
Mr.
layout of the
Laney
plan?
here.
Sure.
He's here for to address any questions that might concern
Can you
the,
please give us a layout of? Sure, if you would, please.
Green light.
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Kenneth Laney, K&M Land Consultants, also here with the applicant this evening. As we had alluded to by Mr. Harrington, we do have an existing parking lot. It is located on Aiken Street. It does have access off of Moody Street. There are 53 parking spaces that are available to be in that lot. Right now, what I've shown on the plan is just those spaces striped. Right now, if you go out into the lot and take a look at the pavement, the spaces aren't striped on there. So in order to actually calculate the number of spaces that are available in that lot, I went ahead and shown striping on the property. As Mr. Harrington also said, there is space around that lot that will be upgraded for landscaping. There's a couple of bollards, I don't know if you've seen, falling over onto the sidewalk. We'll address those issues as well. The front of the property here also has some landscaping that we will address, clean up, spruce up, make look more appealing for not only the existing residential neighborhood, but also the new homeowners or rentals that we're trying to achieve here. Is it a...
it's, the plan is for them to be condominium homeowners, but the market will tell.
Yeah,
Right.
it's up there. And the situation here in the rear is that we're utilizing the rear of the parcel and the back on Moody Street for a dumpster location that'll be screened and fenced. Access to that will be from pavement along the side here of the rear of the structure. In addition to that, it's a pre-existing site, Mr. Chairman. There's not very much that's going to happen on the outside of the property. The interior work is the majority of the work here being done on the property. It's a substantial amount. I've been in the church. I don't know how many other people have been, but it's a beautiful church. So the people that do actually obtain a unit in this church will definitely appreciate the old historic feel of the church and how it ties into the city of Lowell. If you have any questions regarding any of the engineering portions of the project, I'd be glad to answer them at this time.
Can I just ask, how would be the access to get in? I know when you look at the place now, you have the big 5 doors in the front of the building. So how can you tell me how would people get in and out of that unit?
Right, I believe there's going to be multiple accesses to the property. There's, as you can tell, the structure doesn't just include the church itself. Right. There is the rectory portion of the structure. We do have, I believe, schematic drawings of the interior that show access coming into the rectory. There's a door in the front there as well, access into the church that has, those large doors in the front which will not be removed. In addition, per requirement of the code, there'll be accesses for emergency exits around the rest of the remaining of the building. I think, Mr. Chairman, if it's appropriate, seeing as we did receive a letter from Lisa DeMeo, who's currently the city engineer, I just wanted to address some of the comments that she had put forth in her letter. Her first issue with the property, as you can see, the property has been put together utilizing the GIS. The reason for utilizing GIS in this situation was one of a little bit of a situation where Mr. McGowan has put forth a considerable amount of money. The property will remain exactly the same. There's no changes happening to the property line. There's no additional properties being added to the property, no structures being removed or added to the property. So we felt as though in this interest, in the interest of economics, to move forward with the plan so that we can show the planning board an idea of what's going to be constructed internally, as well as just to show the parking that was provided. It was by no means done in a way to, provide any engineering or survey layout for the property, as it'll remain unchanged. Second issue she has is with the landscaping. That tally for the landscaping was the existing landscaping that's on the property that Mr. McGowan has already said he's going to spruce up here this evening. She does mention that there's a maximum curb cut in the area of 25 feet, and in this situation, the existing curb cuts will remain as shown on Moody Street. She does mention in the narrative about 7 units converted to 51 units will definitely have an impact on the sewer and water. We also agree that the additional units will have an impact on the sewer and water. We are currently awaiting for the interior drawings to be completed by the plumbing engineer as well as the water fire engineer in order for us to determine the size of the actual pipes that will be required per this dwelling upgrade to 50 units. I can only imagine that, having this number of units in there will obviously increase the amount of sewerage, which will then require an upgrade to the sewer pipe that extends into the city of Lowell's main. In addition to that, the water usage also will more than likely require us to upgrade the water pipes entering into the structure, but these utilities are already existing on the structure. They do already service the structure, and we would just be upgrading those, as I'm sure they're old and would require upgrading anyways, regardless of the number of dwelling units that we're adding to the property. In addition, she mentions requirements of no runoff being allowed in excess of existing conditions on the parking lot that's located to the left of the structure. We are proposing no upgrades to that parking lot besides landscaping, which in this case would help with runoff. More than likely, it'll be a place to capture the runoff, help the landscaping that's going to be there thrive, and we don't believe that there is a requirement for us to do any drainage calculations, as by not adding any impervious area and possibly even, taking some away by sprucing up some of the landscaping, that there will be no adverse effect of runoff from the property. I believe that was all of the comments that Mr. Mayo had from an engineering standpoint. If you'd like to ask any additional questions, Mr. Chairman, or the board, I'd be glad to answer them at any time.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Excuse me.
Mr. Harrington, do you have anybody else who wants to speak on behalf of the applicant before I turn it over to the public?
Nope.
Okay. Okay. No, what I'm getting at is I want to see if anybody else on behalf of the applicant wants to speak before I turn it over to the public, okay? Nobody else on behalf of the applicant? Okay, at this point in time, I'll turn the public hearing over to anybody who wants to speak in favor of the application. Anybody here like to speak in favor? Yes, sir. If you come to the microphone, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Gill, 60 Chatham Street, Lowell. I'm here really because I guess I'm not what you'd call an immediate abutter, but I'm an abutter. I'm probably about 3 or 4 buildings away, but also a fellow investor in the city. I recently purchased 3 properties late June on Salem and Cabot Street, which is right around the corner. And, in all honesty, my opinion was that area was always more or less a forgotten neighborhood, to be honest with you. I don't even know if you could define it as downtown. It's always been on the fringe and really forgotten. It's been kind of a blighted area. And I'll be honest with you, I've been getting nothing but kudos from the people who live in that area, because now, there's new life, and that breathes new life. The insulation that people feel there, that the neighborhood's getting back on the map. And I think that anything that Mr. McGowan can do, he's taking a substantial, or more or less a monumental undertaking, no pun intended here. And I think that any concessions that he's looking for, would be very, very appreciated. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just telling you, you know, I know that it can, you know, it can use a lot of residential units over there because the people, you know, for all intents and purposes, the housing is questionable in that area. And I mean, anything like that they can get market rate housing or rentals, you know, and I don't know if Mr. McGowan's looking to do anything with the, you know, the university or anything like that with the rentals, but I can tell you from the proximity there, you know, it may not be a bad tact, and if that was the case, you know, the parking wouldn't really be that big of an issue, and that's just my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming down. Anybody else like to speak in favor? Yes. Got the microphone, please, ma'am? Just state your name and address for the record, if you would, please.
Sure. My name is Emily Rosenbaum. I'm the executive director of the Coalition for a Better Acre. We're located at 517 Moody Street, and we own the North Canal Apartments, which are directly across and take up much of Moody Street. So I'm here to speak on behalf of this parking variance as well. I think that the gentleman who came before me said it very well, that we are looking to revitalize this community. Many of us, nonprofits and private partners, are working together to pick at sites that need redevelopment, and oftentimes, you know, in denser neighborhoods like this, the parking was never designed to have multiple cars, and we find that our families don't need multiple car parking in those neighborhoods. We always have an abundant oversupply of parking in our buildings and find that there's adequate on-street parking. In fact, now that we're redeveloping the St. Joseph's School, which is right next to our building on Moody Street, my staff and I are parking in a parking lot for the North Canal Apartments because there are so many available spaces. Most people tend to have one car or no cars in our units, and although I understand that these will be market rate apartments, I think that the denser neighborhoods don't require this type of 2-car per unit parking, and given that we do seem to have adequate on-street parking, I think the benefit and the economic development value of this project would certainly outweigh any difficulty there. So I know I have a couple board members with me, along with my staff, Madeline Nash, and they may want to add something.
Sure. Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. If you want to come up and give us your name and address, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, my name is Paul Johnson. I live at 793 Merrimack Street, and as just alluded to, I'm a board member of the Coalition for a Better Acre. I'm the vice president. But in this instance, I'd like to speak as a resident. I was born in the acre, and after a long time, I ended up moving back into the acre because it's my neighborhood. As has been alluded to, it has become something of a forgotten neighborhood, except by those of us who are either born there or live there. The area where the property in mention is it's a black hole. I mean, you walk by there, the street lights are out even. Nothing's been repaired. I mean, you know, as far as the city lighting goes. It's a beautiful building, and I would love to be able to say, you know, this historic building was a church, and unfortunately now it needs to be something else. And I don't think the church would mind if it was turned into housing. They sold it after all. As regards to traffic and you know, yeah, traffic's going to go up. Traffic's always going to go up. You know, that's just the nature of the beast. Anywhere you are on a main road, traffic goes up. As far as parking, living in the neighborhood and having a car, I have no problem coming home any night of the week and finding a parking spot for my car. I usually park it either on Merrimack or one of the side streets near my house, but just in the few properties between Spalding, Merrimack, and the old hospital, I mean, you've got literally hundreds of people there, and there's still excess room for parking at night. So, I mean, I don't really see a problem with parking in the neighborhood. And Mr. McGowan has stated that properties will either be condominiums or rental. If they're rental, that's great. People need housing. If they're condominiums, it brings pride of ownership. pride of ownership cleans up the neighborhood, hopefully. So I'm, as a resident, in favor of Mr. McGowan having this property put up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Appreciate it. Anybody else like to speak in favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Coleman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm on the board of the CBA, and from the first time, I support this. I've supported this since day one, since this proposal first came about. I think this is going to be an excellent proposal. It fits in with the acre plan. It fits in with all the things that we're trying to do to better the city, and hopefully you will grant this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody like to speak in opposition? Anyone like to speak in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to any of the board members. Any questions or concerns? Any of the board members have any questions, concerns? Before I do that, let me just back up 1 second. I know we received our comments from the department heads, and we did receive lengthy comments from Division of Plan and Development,
Right.
and our associate planner, Mr. Aaron's here tonight. Aaron, anything you want to say in regards to the comments that you addressed to us? And they're pretty much in length, and I appreciate you for your hard work on those.
Yeah, sure. It probably makes sense to let people in the audience know where DPD stands. We too felt this project made a lot of sense for the site. For a lot of the same reasons you've heard tonight, we feel that the project retains a landmark building in the neighborhood. It's a major piece of the neighborhood. There's housing opportunities that it provides. The neighborhood, too, is also in the center of a lot of job creation centers. You have the University of Massachusetts Lowell North Campus within a quarter mile. Wanalancet Mills is very close. Downtown is very close. It's on a bus route. So it was our feeling that this is one of those urban neighborhoods where it attracts people who walk, take alternative modes of transportation, that the parking, although typically may be an issue, due to the significance of the building, the potential to redevelop the neighborhood, that this project made sense with the one space per unit. It's really a beautiful building, and it's something that's a piece of the fabric of that neighborhood, and we really felt it took a little extra effort to retain it. If that's what needed to be done, that's what should be done. So, and
I'm sorry.
And it conforms to many parts of the master plan too, which I alluded to in the
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that update. Thank you very much. At this point in time, any of the board members have any questions or concerns?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Lockhart.
I think your largest issue here in my mind, it boils down to the parking. I'm just wondering if you have 53 spaces in your lot across the street there, and there was some information here from DPD about on-street parking utilization. Have you looked at this project to come up with a rough number as to how many cars you could park there, including the on-street parking?
One more time, I think I didn't grab the whole question there.
You have 53 parking spots in your parking lot. You have so many on-street parking spaces as well.
Yeah.
DPD did some kind of study, somebody did a study of parking utilization on the street.
Yes.
Have you ever, did you come up with some kind of a number?
Yes.
That you could park in total around the development?
Yes, and I think I'll have, Mr. Lanier has also done a
I
study
think it's important. Yeah.
on that, which,
Mr. Lockhart, we've had the opportunity to, we had the opportunity to take a look at the property itself, and we did have the opportunity to go out and actually count the number of spaces that fell within 500 feet of the property, Mr. Lockhart. I do have copies of what I'm showing on the board for you folks to have a look at this evening. And what we did is we took some information that we received from the DPD, which was a previous calculation of on-street and off-street parking that was provided in this area. We went out and supplemented these.
We'll share this one, we can spread out more. Thank you.
Very good. And what we've provided here, just to give you a little bit of information and a better view of where the parking is located, is we've taken some aerial photographs off of the all infamous Google Earth now, and shown with regard to on-street and off-street parking to the north and to the south of the property, what the estimated total number of spaces are within that area between 500 feet to the north and 500 feet to the south of the property.
Within 500 feet of...
That is correct.
The front door, so to speak.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And we've provided that in the south portion of the property, that there's an estimated 187 spaces on street, and to the north of the property, there's an estimated 95 spaces to the north of the property on street. Now, off-street is an important consideration here as well, because the off-street parking that exists in this area does provide parking for a lot of the residential spaces that do exist in this neighborhood. And you can see that the off-street parking to the south of the property provides an estimated 277 spaces, where the off-street parking to the north of the property provides 367 parking spaces. So there is a significant number of parking both on-street and off-street in this neighborhood. What I also provided was just a schematic layout of that 500-foot area on the next page, shown as C1, that shows where those spaces are in accordance to actually going out into the street and measuring them and ensuring that they can withhold a regular car length of approximately 18 feet, which is the typical parking space length here in the city of Lowell. And those are shown with the assorted numbers. The count immediately around the building, you can see, is approximately 20 in the front, 10 in the front, 10 on the side, 11 on Moody Street, and 10 on the side of Aiken Street. An additional 10 on-street parking on Aiken Street across and adjacent to the parking area. And then a significant number of parking spaces along Merrimack Avenue, which would more than likely be the spaces that would be utilized by the people that would be residents here in the structure, as well as parking along the back along Moody Street, which I believe one of the abutters here from the CBA tonight had stated as sufficient parking there as well. We feel that this number of on-street and off-street parking provides a considerable amount of parking in the neighborhood, and that it would be sufficient for this unit to have the 50 units, as there is also pointed out knowledge from the DPD, who conducted a survey that, to verify, the staff conducted a survey to confirm the availability of found 284 parking spaces within a 2-block radius with a utilization rate of 39%. So about a little less than half of those spaces are being utilized on a daily basis. Furthermore, 74 parking spaces were found directly adjacent to the block of the church, and about 36% of those spaces get utilized as well. So that's about 1/3 of those spaces. So just in that local area, you're going to have an additional, 150 plus parking spaces, which would be considerably more than what's actually required by the zoning, which requires 2 spaces per unit, which would require us to have 100 spaces.
Right.
So we feel as though that this, research into the parking, comments from the neighborhood, review by DPD, does allot us the amount of parking that we feel is necessary to put the 50 units in the structure.
So on this sheet here that you passed out, on the off-street parking south and north of the property, you could add the 53 you have in the parking lot to that?
It is
Am I
actually, it's
interpreting?
shown there, Mr. Lockhart.
Huh?
You can see it. It's actually, no, that's accounted for, the 53 is accounted for.
That's not counting their parking spot.
No, it is.
Right. Oh,
It is in
Oh,
there.
I'm sorry.
Yes, you can see the,
Oh, it's over there.
yep, you
Oh, I
can
thought
see
you meant
the
these.
lot here, and
Oh,
the
all right,
53
so it is in there.
That is correct.
Okay. Just one more question. I took a ride up the street and way up to the end of Moody, up by the hospital, and although they're quite a distance, there's several parking lots up there that are empty. Have you approached any landowners around the development to either lease space or, some kind of arrangement where you could pick up 15, 20 spots, whatever it might be?
Well, Mr. Lockhart, after the review of the parking, I don't think we felt as though it was necessary to approach them.
All right, so you could do that as well.
Right, but I mean, we still have an opportunity to do that if, for some reason the parking does become an issue, it's something that, you know, could be taken up with the city.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other board members? Mr. Fischett, any questions, concerns?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, a couple questions. First of all, do you know if the parking lot falls under the purview of the historic board? You mentioned the landscaping and anything you do externally on the site will fall under the historic board, but I'm just curious about the parking areas as well.
With regard to the parking area, I think we just have, we have a little work being done in the four corners, and Brian is not on the historic, no.
So if we wanted some landscaping in this, you wouldn't have to worry about conflicts with the historic board?
Right.
As far as that goes, okay,
Yes.
good. And I will comment, I know one of the concerns we've had in the past with some condominium projects based on the configurations of the unit, there's always the concern of a third bedroom going in, and clearly that's not the case here. I think the bedroom count that we have is the bedroom count that you're going to end up with, even if, unless people end up sleeping on the floor. So I don't think that's going to be a problem, to add additional bedrooms that could create additional demand for parking. I circled this building more times than I had in many, many years, and I was amazed with, matter of fact, coming here this evening, and more so in the evening and in the weekends, and I noticed there's a letter of support here from Mr. Natale. He has a building up Merrimack Street. Matter of fact, he's putting a new fence in the front, and I think the street was open from his building all the way to the corner, which was amazing on Merrimack Street. Also on Moody Street, when you look down towards the fire department, you'll see where I'm parked right now, matter of fact, parking is fully utilized, but again, when you come down to this particular area, it just seems to open up, which was interesting. I guess I never really had looked at it that closely, especially in the evening and on the weekends, and I've gone different evening, different times, and on the weekend as well, and during the day. So that was encouraging to see. Also, I think when you look at the surrounding zones in the zone that this is in, they all start with a U or a D, which is urban or downtown. And we talk about the master plan, and we talk about neighborhood character and what the character of that particular neighborhood is. So clearly that is part of urban living in that particular area. I particularly pleased to see that we have a large structure that is not on the tax rolls that we're looking at putting on the tax roll, which is certainly an economic benefit to the city of Lowell, and also the housing needs. I think that based on the size of these units, we've had some very nice upscale condo developments in downtown Lowell over the last 5 years, but they've sold for $700,000, $600,000, $300,000, $400,000, $200,000, and certainly you can see by these units, I think we're going to meet a diverse housing need, which I think is very important. I know there was some concern regarding fire. I did circle the building, and I actually marked. I'm not aware of a major building that actually has 3 fire hydrants that wrap around this structure. There's one right in front of the church between the church building and the rectory, and there's one at the corner of Merrimack and Moody, and there are, I noticed, signs for no parking from here to the corner, which should keep that access to that hydrant open. And there's also a hydrant at the other corner of Austin and Moody, so clearly I was pleased to see that. Also, when you look from Merrimack Street down to Aiken, which is, again, is very interesting, when you cross Moody Street from that intersection to Father Morrisette Boulevard, it's loaded with cars on each side. As soon as you get down here, there's nothing. So clearly there's some additional capacity in that area. The drainage on the site, again, I see there's no change to that. I understand the city's engineers, especially with new development, if they can show that there's less water going into the combined storage overflow system, obviously that's a plus, but I see there's no change happening here. I would like to see some landscaping relative to this site. I know there are some trees along Moody Street facing the church that I certainly would like to either see preserved or enhanced, and I think that can add a lot to the streetscape of that particular corner. I have to ask, and I've asked the developer, I did actually speak before the city council to have the historic district extended in order for this church to fall into the historic district. This really is a symbol of the French-Canadian population that was really contributed significantly to the success and the history of this city. I was wondering if there's any space in here to put some sort of a museum space, a small lobby space that would, and I'm sure there's some historic people in this city that would be happy to even provide some photographs or some material, but I think that would be that would add to what this building would give to the downtown. Clearly, the intent is to preserve this. Externally, when I was there over the weekend, somebody was out there taking pictures of it and just admiring the structure. You're not going to build something like this ever again. It's just cost prohibitive. So from that perspective, I certainly I think and the Coalition for a Better Acre spoke in support of this. I think that they've an advocate of housing in that neighborhood. I think they understand the housing needs in that neighborhood as well as anybody else can. So certainly that speaks volumes. That's all I have to say at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Genvin, any questions, concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of questions. You will need a variance for the land area per dwelling unit on
Yes.
this property. The land area per dwelling unit requirement now is, in this building, Aaron, is 1,000 square feet, is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
And that's because it's in the urban downtown, urban mixed-use zone?
Correct.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, so that's pretty generous as it is.
And if I can add,
Go ahead.
one of the things to consider there is we need that variance because we have the church property, we have the parking lot property, which we're not allowed to include in that calculation.
Mm.
Were we allowed to include that, then we wouldn't need that variance.
Really?
So the property as a whole, other than being divided by a street, we would.
Interesting. So why is that? Aaron, I'm confused, because usually when we have a project like this, we use the parking area as part of the land area calculation. Why is this different?
I believe it's because there's a public way separating the actual lot where the building's going to be.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes a difference then. I was curious why you wouldn't pursue the variance before coming to us with for the parking issues.
Well, the reason is back when we first obtained the variance, we didn't need to come before the planning board. The Article 12 special permit wasn't required back a year and a half ago when we first obtained the variance. So actually what happened is we were coming back to renew what we had, and that's when issues were raised and we were enlightened to the changes. And then the issue came up with 8.1. So it was actually a matter of we were going in with our application for our variance, thinking that was all we needed at the time. And
I see.
We're also under a little bit of time constraint with our dealings with the church as well. So that's why we wanted to get everything in as quickly as we could.
All right. Very good, thanks. That actually addresses my concern there with the land area. The other question I had was related to what Mr. Frechette was saying regarding the preservation. You're going for the historic board, so I'm sure they're putting requirements upon you to preserve the essence of that building.
Yeah,
I would assume.
They're not
maybe more
overlooking
than you
much. Yeah,
you're maintaining the windows and that sort of thing.
Yes, and I mean, the historic permit requires now plans and approval every step of the way before we before we can do anything. So, you know, we have the permit, but, you know, the issues are open as to what they're going to allow us to do, and so we'll be working with Steve Stoll to address all those.
Good. So the only other concern I had is the same thing Mr. Lockhart brought up, and that was the parking. That jumped out at me when I first looked at the application.
Right.
I was, holy cow, what are we doing here? We don't want to create a parking problem in the downtown. And I actually had not quite the same experience in visiting the site. I was there Saturday morning, and there was no parking on Moody Street behind the building and no parking on Austin Street. I even stopped a postman there and asked him about the parking situation, and he told me that he thought the parking, he walks the beat there every day. He told me that parking was reasonably tight in that area, and also that Saturday was the worst day. So I was there on the worst day, and outside of the general area of the church, there seemed to be more parking. And on Merrimack Street there was parking, but on the streets in the back there, it was very full parking. So parking, I believe, is my biggest concern with the whole project. You know, I don't think 2 spaces per unit is really too much to ask, because you know, and I understand this may be a different project, but it's a concern for me. I think the parking estimates we're seeing here and that Aaron provided us with are a little bit on the optimistic side, and it's also extending quite a distance. I don't think people are going to be walking from City Hall, or will want to be walking from the City Hall area down to the church to live. So to that end, I think Mr. Lockhart brought up a great point regarding the lots in the area. Would you be willing to approach those the owners of those lots, even if it's in like a contingency type of situation, and you know, maybe set up some arrangement where, in the chance that parking becomes an issue for the residents, that there's some type of a contingency with those lots? Would that be something you'd be willing to pursue?
Yes, would be, you know, willing to approach, you know, see if anyone actually has any parking that they can make that type of commitment to us. Then, you know, it's not going to hurt us to approach them.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a matter of, you know, maybe they can enter into an arrangement where they can lease spaces, or we can offer it to residents that have additional parking needs. I have been involved in some of the developments further downtown, and one of the things I will say was surprised, and these were some of the higher end units that were alluded to earlier, is that the number of people who are coming in with one vehicle now downtown, and you know, and these are people who are going out, you know, traveling to work, and it was, you know, a little enlightening to me to see that, you know, notwithstanding in many instances they had the ability to rent a second space, say in a garage, that a lot of them are getting by with one space, with one, you know, and with some of these other units, it's either a space in the garage or there's no parking. So, you know, here we have it, you know, I believe much better than a lot of the other projects. So,
and I can understand the different type of clientele that you'd have in this area, and the walking distance to UMass Lowell, you know, that could be a significant source of tenants or owners here, as well as downtown and so forth. So I can see that, but I also think that I think it would be worth the exercise to approach some of those people to see if
we have no problem.
That might be a
giving
contingency
it, you know,
plan for you.
Seeing what we can work with them. It's, you know, as far as, you know, in general, as far as the parking's concerned, with the number of units for any conversion of this property to be economically feasible, it's, you know, that's why we're seeking that kind of relief.
Okay, you know, I think the fact that you're preserving this, you know, beautiful church in downtown Lowell and keeping it from going the way of St. Peter's Church and, you know, other churches in the city that are real jewels here, I think makes the project more attractive. Have some concerns about the parking, but if you would be willing to approach those folks, then I think that might work.
Thank you, Mr. Gentleman. Mr. Claremont, any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe just a couple of comments. I'm very, very happy to see this project come in. I was concerned with the passage of time that there might be some issues bringing it forward, and I certainly can appreciate, but for the delay from the Archdiocese in transferring title into the developers, this project would be well on its way. Especially, you know, given the market now that the developers are willing to move forward with this project in this area, I think is a great benefit to the city of Lowell. I spent a lot of years working directly across the street from this church, and I can recall when it was a very vibrant, active church and active community, and I'd love to see that building preserved and start to get that area that's been long neglected back on its feet. So I do appreciate the fact that all the work that's gone into getting it to this point. I'll reiterate, you know, under normal circumstances, parking would be a concern, but this is, in my opinion, sort of a special project in a special area, and I don't think that you're going to find yourself short on the parking, but certainly a good idea if you can approach some neighboring lots that might not be utilized. If you find that you're going to be needing them, it's always nice to have more than not enough. That being said, there are just a couple of housekeeping things that were, in my mind, brought forward to us by some of the city folks. One is that initially Captain Weber had a concern about the parking. The latest materials we got from him indicates that he has no concerns with the parking as long as there's signage posted about no parking within, he says, 15 feet of a street corner or whatever is the current city restriction. So we'd probably look to have that posted so it doesn't be, so the parking, if it is off-street, won't be blocking the area. And there was some concern about where the dumpster was going to be located. Can you just outline where that's going to be?
Larger plan and view, obviously this is subject to the historic board, but our goal was to locate the dumpster in the rear area, have it screened and fenced on Moody Street, which will have access. This area in the rear of the structure is currently all paved. So we're going to locate that so that there would be access off-site for the dumpster to be picked up by the trash company.
My only other suggestions were the city engineer obviously had some comments that you addressed. I'd like to make any approvals contingent on review of the final plans by the city engineer and review of the final lighting and landscaping plans, perhaps by DPD. I know you have to go before historic, but you may have an opportunity to do some landscaping in the parking area that's not subject to historic, and I'd like that to be reviewed by DPD. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I, too, was up at this site, and it is a beautiful building, especially looking at it from the front of the street, looking up how high it is. And I know some of the construction there, you're having certain things being removed that you have to take out for the Archdiocese, like some of the things you have to be removed on the site?
Yes.
The Archdiocese is taking?
Yes, and I believe most of it's been removed. I think they were removing the crosses today.
Yeah, I knew there was some action up there today, that's what I was getting at. What about the statue in front? Is that staying or going? I noticed when I was up there yesterday, I think it was Reverend Karen, I noticed a big statue in front of the thing, this Karen, okay, I think I wrote it wrong, but go ahead.
It's our understanding it's staying.
Okay. I mean, obviously, that's up to the Archdiocese issue, but looking at the site...
Yeah.
No?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Father Garen.
Not on your site?
No.
Okay. So you're willing to do whatever takes place? Okay. Not take an issue on that one? You can't win?
Right.
Okay.
No.
So, I mean, I said, the church is a beautiful building. I mean, obviously, unfortunately, we know it's not going to be maintained as a church anymore. So we're coming in before Division of Planning and Development, and as planning board members, you look at how do you maintain a project like this? What can you do with the building that exists there? And fortunately, we do have the 8.1 conversion of existing building in our plan. That's what you're in front of us for. And as outlined in our rules and regulations, the purpose for that is the provision shall be to promote the preservation of a significant historic building in the neighborhood landmarks. And it goes on and talks about the effective preserve and enhance the architecture of the area, and also to maintain, hopefully, the surrounding neighborhoods. And I feel with the neighborhood people coming out here tonight and speak in favor, and a lot of time when people in favor of a project, they don't always come down and speak in favor of it. We usually hear more of opposition we do here in favor. But I commend the people who get down and spoke in favor of this. This is their neighborhood, this is gonna affect them the most. I do believe the question was at first, the issues were the land dwelling unit, we would need the 1,000. As council said, if you could count the parking lot, you would have it. What you do have now is the 740 feet per dwelling unit instead of the 1,000, and since it's not a continuous building, therefore you fall short on that. I think basically in that neighborhood, the 740 would be basically they could meet the demand. I believe housing is definitely an issue in that neighborhood. I think by getting this part of the city neighborhood back on track, this would go a long way, as indicated by the people who spoke in favor of this project. I also feel that the parking would be an issue, but I think with the job that you set up with the off-street parking, the work that Division of Planning and Development did by going out and checking what the off-street parking would be, the fact that you have at least one parking per unit, and I believe it was Mr. Johnson who indicated how he parks there, he has one car, and the majority of the people up that area, majority may have only the one car. Obviously, we always try to have more parking per site if need be. When the neighbors come forward and say, usually, we don't have a problem with the parking, that's not too often we hear that. It's always, we can't get a place to park, we want more parking. And I know it's difficult with the building that's already up there to meet all those needs, but I feel the way of background, what you're doing is to preserve the building. I think that the 51 parking spaces, would like to have more, but would be enough for this project to move forward. And if we do need, it's a contingent plan to add new parking spaces up the line, that could be something that I think that would help. That would be on whatever type of demand you bring in there. But hopefully with the type of work you're gonna be put in there, that this will meet the needs of the neighborhood, and it'll also keep that building up. And I too am in favor of the project, and I commend you for coming forward with the project. I know there's been a lot of holdups on the matter, but hopefully the matters will move further. I know you still have to go back before the Zoning Board of Appeals to approve your parking plan?
Yes,
okay.
Actually going next week.
Yeah, okay. So saying that, I commend you on that, and I have nothing further. Thank you. At this point in time, entertain a motion from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I had one more question
Sure.
that popped into my mind. I came into the meeting this evening thinking that this was going to be a condo development where you sold the units to owners, and tonight you mentioned that this possibility it could be rental. Can you tell me what the plan is there?
The hope and intent is to, for it to be a condominium conversion. However, if you look around now, you may find other condominium developments where we find developers suddenly being landlords. So it's a matter of, once we begin the work, and if it wouldn't be a matter, if it looks as though it's going to be sitting on units, and that would be economically troublesome. So at that point, I think you would have to look into another avenue of rental income. So,
in my opinion, I think everybody's opinion, this is a much more desirable project if it can be condo ownership. But it sounds like that's certainly your main intent.
That's how all the the plans, the budgeting, and everything going forward at this point. However, in light of the housing market these days, we have to keep our eyes open. So,
okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I just may add,
Sure.
because we've been throwing some numbers around on the lot area per dwelling unit, but just doing calculations, if we were including the parking lot, and again, the only reason we're not dissecting because of the road, but that would be 1,133 square feet, so that, we're looking at an excess of 133 from required.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the special permits subject to a couple of conditions. One, that the final engineering plans be reviewed and approved by the city engineer. Two, that there be no parking within certain feet of the street corners posted, and review of the final lighting and landscaping plan by the DPD.
Mr. Claremont, could I also add that the applicant approach owners of the area parking lots to see if they're, to investigate whether or not a contingency plan could be made to handle overflow parking?
Sure. And that's agreeable with the applicant.
And
can add that as
with
a
that, I'll
condition.
second the motion.
All right, any further discussion by board members?
I just have one additional condition I'd like to include. I think Mr. Frechette's idea of creating some kind of a little historical monument or whatever you want to call it, nothing elaborate, but I think we want to preserve the building, yeah, but we also want to preserve the history. If that could be part of it, you could work with Steve Stoll or any of the historic board people, and they'd provide materials for you and give you a lot of guidance there.
Yeah, just, you know, we haven't had time to speak up in detail, but speaking quickly, I believe there's hallways that are going to be kind of in, as the existing layout now, like pretty kind of wide hallways, and that might be an area, you know, when you
Yeah,
walk
just
in,
include that.
maybe on the
It'd be a
first
nice
floor,
amenity and
and then, you know,
it should be put in there.
sure that would add some character to
Yeah,
the,
exactly.
for the
Like
residents as
any
well.
type of common area coming in the building or something of that nature?
Yeah. we'll
Yes.
see.
And the historic board could let you know, and that way you move forward with them as they check off on your sites.
Yeah, generally, the historic board doesn't get involved once we get inside, but
Yeah.
that's fine, yeah.
But if you had any questions, I think Mr. Lockhart is our representative on the
Yeah.
historic board from the planning board, so
Yeah,
he
we're-
knows what they're looking for when you go before.
That's
them.
right.
So-
Yeah,
so,
I know that they'd be very happy to work with you and.
you know, just as a suggestion.
Give you
Yeah,
all the
that's
guidance
fine.
you need.
So,
Yeah,
Make
Yeah,
it
it
really
would be
easy
nice.
for you.
So the motion is made, and, I'm sorry, was the motion second? I know, motion was made and second,
Yeah,
all in
I
favor?
second.
Say aye. Chair votes yes. The project proves
Aye.
5-0 in favor, and I want to thank everybody from that coming down and speaking on behalf of this project. I appreciate all your input. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
Wish you well. Do you need 2 minutes, Rich? Huh? Do you need 2 minutes before we start up?
No, I'm all set.
Moving along, we still have one further public hearing. This is a zoning amendment, the parking regulations for recreational vehicles. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Appendix A, therefore entitled zoning. The amendment would alter the existing language of Section F and Article 10, Article 13, Table of Accessory Use related to the parking of recreational vehicles in the zoning district. We had a proposed copy of the old zoning and what the new zoning would be. Aaron, does Division of Plan Development want to be heard on the recommendation, on the amendment, or I have any comments either way?
This was just, I believe it was a concern that was brought to the city council about RVs and other recreational vehicles that were being parked in people's parking lots or in their front yards, but no, there's really nothing that we have to add to this at this point. This is from the city council.
Anybody here like to speak in favor of the ordinance? Anybody in favor of the ordinance? In favor?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Matt Coleman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Unfortunately, today is one of those days I'm talking almost on everything and I have no voice. But I do have I'm torn on this one because I live on 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I live, there's a recreation vehicle, motor vehicle, on Parker Street. I think that this is where that issue arose. I personally don't have a problem with seeing that parked in front of their property. They do have a driveway, they could park in their driveway. If this is not allowed, if they can't park this on their driveway, and I don't know, and I believe that they may be elderly people, where are they gonna park it? And particularly if this may be their only vehicle, and I don't know if it is or not, but if it is, where are they gonna park it, other than in front of their house or in the driveway? So I think that this is, I'm torn on this. I think in some areas it's not a good idea to have it, but I think there should be some sort of a case-by-case decision as to where it's suitable to have it, where it's not. I think overall, I do agree with the proposed zoning, but I do have a question, but I am concerned about those homeowners who may be retired, who may be having that as an only vehicle, where they do have a parking, where they do have a garage, not a garage, but a driveway where they can park. So I have mixed emotions on this, but I thought I'd at least let you know how I stood on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anybody else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Any persons like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. At this point in time, do any of the board members have any questions or concerns in regards to the zoning amendment? As I understand, Aaron, this will go back before the city council for final vote anyways. This is just for our recommendation, correct?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. All right. So therefore, this matter is for us to make a vote to recommend whether we're in favor of this zoning ordinance or we're not, and what will happen at a future date. Regardless of what our recommendation is, the matter will go back before the full council, and there'll be a public hearing before the city council on any zoning change that comes before this board. We're only a recommending body. So just saying that, any of the board members have any questions or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, years ago when I was a member of the city council, I can remember getting calls occasionally from people who were concerned about tractor trailers, vehicles that shouldn't be parked on a neighborhood street, parked in front of their houses. And, in most streets in the city of Lowell, it's just not appropriate to have vehicles like that standing there parking on the street. So, I would be in favor of including this amendment, and I would make a motion that we recommend that the city council approve it.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion by board members?
Just for discussion, not to belabor the ordinance, but whenever I have a new ordinance, I try and read it a few times and try and get the meaning. Obviously, I think the intent of this is to prevent, as Mr. Gendron said, we don't want tractor trailers parking there. We don't want large motorhomes parking there. But as I read it and reread it, I'm wondering if that's what it says, because now it is preventing, in most zoning districts, parking or allowing to stand any motor vehicle, motorhome, recreational vehicle, or any motor vehicle attachment. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's one of the trailers that they attach to a truck, including but not limited to residential trailers. I assume that's the big motorhomes, or 12,000 pounds, exceeding 24 feet in length, having 3 or more axles. But if you read just the beginning of that, parking allowed to stand any motor vehicle, motorhomes, recreational vehicles, standing by itself, and then including but not limited to all these other big things that we're looking to eliminate. The more I read it, the less it makes sense to me that.
So your concern is basically when it says any motor vehicle in the first phrase before the paragraph,
Right.
it could be considered to be any.
It says including but not limited to all these other things.
So you're looking at the.
I think the wording in my mind is a little confusing, because is it also eliminating other vehicles other than the large tractor trailers and motorhomes we're looking to try and prevent? I don't know.
So I think what you're saying is you believe the intent of the ordinance would be to eliminate the big vehicles on there, but the part where you put in any motor vehicle could come down to even a motorcycle on the street. And then a parked car that would be there. So the question would be,
To me, when it says including but not limited to, that means these things additionally are not allowed. So that means the beginning of the phrase says parking allowed to stand any motor vehicle, motorhome, recreational vehicle, etc. I just have a concern about the wording. I know the intent,
Right.
and hopefully I would work out, but I hate to see us get hung up on some of the language. And as I looked at the ordinance as it was before, and it said parking allowed to stand a motor vehicle and/or motor vehicle attachment, excluding recreational vehicles having gross vehicle weight. And so they were excluding all the recreational vehicles having the gross vehicle weight of 12,000 more pounds and 24 feet in length, et cetera, et cetera. So it was excluding the large vehicles. But that ordinance did not include the recreational vehicles that they're looking to exclude by way of the weight. So I'm not sure how quickly this is coming up before the council. Do you know?
I don't know that answer, actually.
keeping that in mind, what we could do is, if the board feels appropriate, that we make a motion to approve the ordinance with the caveat saying, question on whether any motor vehicle, as says in paragraph 1, is what is actually the full intent. And therefore, what we could do is, if they have Division of Plan and Development, just bring that to the attention of the legal department before it goes to the public hearing. So if they raise that issue, or if they feel that one word or two may be deleted or added. I know technically, when we have a zoning ordinance come before us, as we've been told time and time again from the council, is we either vote for it or against it and not amend it. But I think as a caveat, we could say, we think that we have a problem with just part of the wordage, and is that what it's intended to mean? And maybe if the city solicitor could look at the wording and see if that's exactly what's intended to be, in case if someone else on that council picks up the exact same thing as picked up here by the planning board, they would have the mechanics to answer that question, or if they want it that way, at least they know exactly where it's coming back in, but at least we could say we recommend it as we believe the intent of the ordinance is, with the caveat that we're concerned whether any motor vehicle should stand in that phrase as it stands alone and prohibit any motor vehicle from being part of that ordinance. I don't know if the board feels that's appropriate to do. I think we could try to bring it to their attention
If they're looking
somehow.
to eliminate vehicles of a certain
Size,
weight,
yeah.
length, or axle, that makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
But-
No, that's a good point, yeah. I mean, it's always good to be able to catch one of these before it moves on, instead of having to come back in front of us as an ordinance and have someone say, well, what does it mean now? I know sometimes as attorneys, we read things, we read them over and over again, and I know the easiest way to try to make any ordinance is the simpler the language, the easier it is to understand.
Absolutely, yep.
I know sometimes picking up our own zoning codes, as Attorney Claremont said, is, you know, when you look at our ordinance and zoning code, if you have to read something over and over again, and as myself being attorneys, you get confused reading it, and as board members, we read it as an ordinance, and if we have a hard time of understanding exactly what it means, I'm sure the average person doesn't have a lot of land use experience, comes in and says, well, it says any vehicle now, and one neighbor can say, well, he's parking there every night, and your zoning says any motor vehicle, and it's a motor vehicle.
I think the phrase including but not limited to is confusing in its context. It wasn't part of the original zoning
So that we can say,
statute.
if we want to make a
It should be
recommendation,
specifically including these classes of vehicles.
so we can recommend in favor with the caveat that we have a couple of questions with the intent of the language.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's good that we have lawyers on the board here, because I read this quickly, and I assumed it meant, vehicles that exceeded 24 feet in length or had 3 or more axles. But you're right, and reading it more closely, it really doesn't say that. It says any motor vehicle, motorhome, recreational vehicle, including but not limited to these examples. So it really is kind of bad wording, I think. So if it's the wish of the board, I'll withdraw the motion if you wish, and recommend that we have the law department
Right, I think we might, improve the intent of this zoning amendment, and maybe we can contact either the solicitor's office and just question them on the wording and just see if
Right.
could make better sense.
And Aaron, I'm assuming, has this been posted already?
Posted in,
For
The
public
council
hearing?
public hearing.
For the public hearing?
if it's on, if it's going to be on a council hearing, it will be posted, yeah.
But that change in the wording won't be enough to,
And I think his question is, has it been posted yet, if you know the public hearing set up yet?
I don't know if,
Okay.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
okay, and I'm assuming it's not substantial enough to create a problem, but obviously that.
Yeah, I think that the wording can be tweaked and can make perfect sense. So I think if we perhaps recommend to the council that we approve the thought behind the ordinance and work on the wording.
Do you mind amending that to your
No.
motion, Mr. General?
No,
Okay.
that's good.
So the motion be that we allow the ordinance to go forward and hopefully have the language addressed to create the need to make it simplify whether all motor vehicles are included or just as it stands now, and hopefully clarify the matter before it proceeds before the council. So the motion's made and by Mr. Chairman, anyone second that motion?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Vote is approved to recommend the zoning ordinance change. Moving along, we have another matter under the pre-application session. We completed the one on 868 Middlesex Street with the public hearing. The next matter we have is the project address of 1519-1527 Middlesex Street. The project by Neam and project construction of a retail, commercial space and expansion of a parking lot. This is the zoning is a RR zoning, and is required review is a site plan review. Again, this matter is considered what we call a pre-application session. The following matter individuals have requested to come before the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed. These are not public hearings. However, if anybody here wants to speak in favor or against, the board will entertain their notion. Each project will require a public hearing at the future date, and the board renders no decision on these matters before the public hearing. And entertain that, may we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, George Cielides Jr., 133 Market Street, Lowell. And I'm here this evening with Master Nam An, who's the owner of the premises that's before you this evening, as well as with Jim Jithokas of Paul Davies and Associates and Jack Sullivan of Sullivan Engineering Group Limited, or as he's known around these parts, the other Jack Sullivan. Anyway, we're here this evening to give you a little background on the project that's proposed here. And really, the only reason we're here is that, and you'll see this shortly, my client is proposing to take the property which he's owned over 20 years and built a building on. When he came here from Korea decades ago, he built a building there to run his martial arts studio, and he's done it very successfully and done a great job in the city all these years. And most recently, he's found it more appropriate to get a little more usage out of the property that's there. And he's proposing right now to add a just under 10,000 square foot building, which you'll see, that will house 8 stores that will each be just probably slightly over 1,000 square feet. It's in a, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, a regional retail zone, and under that zoning, we basically meet all the requirements except the reason, I guess, why we're here this evening is, as you know, one of the requirements under site plan review is if a parking lot with 14 spaces or 4,000 square feet of impervious surface is expanded, that too is a requirement for site plan review. There was already a finished parking lot there, essentially a finished parking lot, and in the early stages of putting the project together, it was believed that that was sufficient to already have qualified as a parking lot and not necessarily an expansion of it. However, to be on the safe side, it was a matter that we brought up with the building department and the zoning department to make sure that there weren't any problems there. While that was going on and being looked into, and concurrent with that, my client and his consultants went forward with the Conservation Commission to just get all the information and permitting that they could get straightened out at that part. And we've done that, and successfully. And in the process, I should note that there were actually 4 different meetings that took place, and there were neighbors adjacent who attended these meetings, and basically I can say that when the Conservation Commission passed their portion of the thing, we believed that we had satisfied the neighbors, at least as far as any drainage, runoff issues, et cetera, are concerned. Finally, while that was going on, or near the tail end, Commissioner Camacho decided that it was probably in the best interest to go forward for site plan review, and we obviously, based on that, decided that that was clearly the route we would take, and that's why we're about to make that filing with the board. In the meantime, as I indicated, Mr. Jizokis and Mr. Sullivan are here, and they're going to give you a little rundown of the project, and then my client, Master Naaman, is here as well, so any one of the four of us, maybe even Mr. Jizokis' wife, who's with us tonight, will answer questions for you that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Aaron, do you know what happened to the stand over here?
Somebody walked off with it, apparently.
Is it green?
Good thing, we gotta buy another one of those. It never works.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jim Jizokis with Paul Davies and Associate Architects. We started this project about, back in May, starting conversation with planning department and going back and forth and all the requirements. And we've been working with the design, and this, I don't know if you must be familiar with this property. It's on Middlesex Street. There was a 2.5-story mansard style building that was recently torn down, and that is this property. Right, the Dunkin' Donuts is this building right here. This is one of the few residential townhouse projects on this strip, and right now a lot of the parking is in front, and the entire lot, which is approximately an acre of kind of like a gravel, oil sprayed wrap mix.
Is that where the martial arts building is?
Yes.
In front? Right, okay.
Right here.
And the lot runs all the way back, and it goes all the way back?
All the way back.
To the railroad tracks? Right? And the
Right.
condominiums on the
Right.
left?
The condominiums are right here
Now,
outlined.
did this need review by us at one point in time, or came forward and then it didn't need review and was called back? Because it was on our agenda at one time.
Yes, it was.
I remember
on-
going up and looking at the
yeah,
site.
that's what happened was there was a confusion on whether or not the existing surface was pervious or impervious. And we went through the whole thing, and we finally, went through everything.
Because it showed up on our agenda, and then it didn't go forward that night.
Right.
Okay.
And
I want to make sure I was
because-
the same site. Okay,
yeah.
I recall now. All right.
Right.
I remember visiting the site and coming up.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And after working through everything, and Jack's gone through conservation, got approval there as well, we're looking to improve the site with more green space. As recommended by the Department of Planning, we are moving all the parking out of the front, pushing it in the back, giving it a green landscape. And the building itself, we're proposing something similar to what we designed for Chelmsford Street Stairway Plaza, a brick building with storefronts, a colonnade down the front, and a potential green, deep green awning above that.
Jim, what's the building to exact left? I remember, I just can't think of it. Where your green space is now almost? You know, when you come in the driveway, right over to the left, where a lot of people park, right out there as well. By
Right
the street,
here?
yeah. I forget what it was, but I remember coming up there, people parked all over the place.
Where the lawn is.
Yeah, where that lawn is now?
Yeah, the lawn is on the left. I don't know.
Master, what's the building adjacent, what's the property adjacent on the other side, not the Dunkin' Donuts side, the other side? Middlesex rental.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of it was, when you come into that site, is the way the cars are parked now. You have some parked on the side of your building, you have some parked to the left in the front.
Right,
And I
it's a
think-
free-for-all.
Right, it is,
Yeah.
because when I went up there to look at the first time, it was like, there's no direction on where to park,
No.
where to go.
No.
It was, I remember looking at the site and saying.
And from
Yeah,
what
the way
it
you
is,
set it up now, and I know, like I said, the parking lot in the back is pretty big. I don't know how many parking spaces you have there, Jim, but I know by looking at it, it went back further than I thought when I first drove by before I turned around and came back and pulled into
we're
the
right
site.
around 63, 64, according to the current zoning ordinances. Where it is right now, a free-for-all,
It was hard to tell.
It's probably right about that, and we're actually reducing that surface area.
I think you had a fence to the left where the condos are and a fence to the back before you get back to railroad tracks, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, yeah, by the condo, okay, yeah, I recall now, yep.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, that's, matter of fact, that retaining wall stood out of my mind. Is that retaining wall part of this property, or is it part of the abutting property?
It was probably assumed it was a part of the abutting property, but
It encroaches onto Master Arts property.
by 2 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what we found. And I did a survey out there. The condo people hired their own surveyor to look at the line. And then we found out through mutual agreement that the wall indeed was onto Master Arts property. It wasn't known until this project came to light that it did encroach onto
Are you gonna push the wall back?
So we're actually, part of the, I'll take the mic. Sure, thanks, Jim. My name's Jack Sullivan from the Sullivan Engineering Group. Part of this process, the reason we had to go to the Conservation Commission, because the back half of this property is in a floodplain to the Merrimack River.
Yeah, towards the railroad tracks way back.
Correct. There's no wetland resource areas, anything like that. But since there's a floodplain, we were going to be altering some of the floodplain. We had to go before them to show how we were going to compensate for storage, for floodplain storage. So through that process, we had dealings with the condo group next door, and we've actually had meetings after the approval with the condo people, trying to deal with that wall, because right now it's in structural failure. And so we've actually, I think the attorneys are working through a process to try to resolve this, but we came to a good agreement at our last meeting. I think things have to be put into writing, but we have some dealings so that we're going to come to a resolution with the wall. So that was some of the background. We did, like we said, we had 4 meetings with the Conservation Commission. These plans have been circulated to all the town departments. We had received comments back from many of the departments and tried to incorporate them into the plans. When it came time to pull the building permit is when we ran into the obstacle, and that's when we had a sit-down meeting with town staff, city staff, and that's how we ended up in front of you tonight. Basically, the building inspector said he felt, based on traffic, based on the number of parking spaces, that he thought we should come before this board, and Masteron basically agreed to do so, and so this was the first step tonight. I know you don't have too much detail on the project, and you might be seeing it for the first time, but this is basically what we're doing. Like Jim said, there's no zoning relief that would be needed to construct the project as shown. I have done detailed drainage studies, not only for floodplain, but for stormwater mitigation for this project.
The parking lot leans towards the back, does it? Does it slope back towards the back part of your lot?
It actually...
I mean, it looked that way, but it was... is it a cross-section?
This won't show you too much, but it'll be tough for you to see. But it basically slopes, but as you get back to where the railroad track is, there's actually fill in that area. Right. So everything actually drains off back towards the rear of the Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay. So it goes back and over.
Right. So we're basically, since we're in a floodplain, I'm not looking to change too much of the grading. I tried to do limited filling in this area and try to maintain natural drainage patterns. But I have provided stormwater mitigation to prevent any increase in off-site flow from this development.
So what would he want to add on to his site there in the front where the building is? What does he want to put? What type of business? He has the martial arts there now, right?
Yes, he has a multi-use building now.
Right.
Currently, I believe large majority of it is the martial arts studio, and there is a small grocery.
Yep, okay, I recall.
I do believe there may be one other office use.
So would those buildings be staying there? Anything happening to those?
No, those would remain. And with the parking calculations, the shared parking calculations would work out with the
so you basically clean up the whole parking area is what you're doing and not changing the building as it exists today?
Exactly.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I noticed on the other
You
diagram,
see the other one, if you could, Mr. Sullivan? Thank you.
when I went to visit the site, I actually parked at front of the building, and I had to try to back out onto Middlesex Street, and where the Dunkin's
Very
drive-up is
difficult.
coming
Yeah.
up. That's
Yeah.
a big improvement, what you've got right there. It really is.
Because it's like you say, Jim, it's a free-for-all, pulling in, pulling out of there right now,
Yes.
traffic pattern.
It's both the visual and the traffic.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have a, Jim, did you say that the impervious area that's on this building lot, you're not changing that at all?
Well,
You made a comment, I didn't really.
there's been a debate, and the reason why we're here, and the reason why there was some confusion over the last 5 months, why you had it in front of you and not have it in front of you, was the definition of impervious surface.
Okay.
And what is out there now is described as kind of a mix of oil and dirt and wrap, which is basically ground up asphalt, and there is some paved area. So Jack would probably
Comes down to
describe
the
it better,
definition,
but it is something in most areas as deemed impervious. It's not something that you would want in your backyard.
Okay. So given that, are you doing anything to drainage on the lot? You got any plans to upgrade that?
Yeah,
Yeah, basically, originally, we were saying we were decreasing the amount of impervious surface. The net effect would be less than 14 parking spaces. Jim had a meeting with city staff on that, but that's all it was just a quick discussion. So we felt, okay, that's why I was withdrawn from the planning board. We felt we would move through the process. As such, well, that's not the case. So now we're actually going to be paving the entire lot, okay? That'll be asphalt. But where this site presently has no drainage at all, we'll be adding drainage. And also, under the building, I'm providing flood storage compensation for the, in the large storm events. So, yeah, it will be paved. It will be a finished paved surface.
Can we see the other plan from it? It looks like, Jim, you're gonna pick up some green space on that parking lot too that doesn't exist now? By your green spots there, is that
A little
gonna
bit, yeah.
be picked up? Maybe
right.
to break up the
We'll
parking?
dramatically improve the green.
Because now it's just wide open.
Dispersion. Yeah, right now it is
I mean, I
just
see you
wide
have some
open.
green area there, so that you intend to fill those in, that's some of the green area?
Right,
Okay.
in the front, yes. And the tree calculations will be in line with the zoning ordinances.
No, I'm sorry,
ahead.
Jim, if I may, do you have any idea of how the height of those buildings relative? Because I know that the condos are up high. I'm just curious as to how that's going to relate
To
to the height of those.
There's an additional 8 feet approximately in the rear portion here. These all have decks that come out
Right.
this backside, so there will be a wall in front of them that will be approximately 8 feet tall.
So there'll be
Building.
there'll be the
So-
wall, there'll be a space between the building and that retaining wall? Is that how that's going to work?
There'll be a space between, this grade right now drops off
Yeah, yeah.
like 5 or 6 feet, depending on where you are. But as it's proposed, the building will become the new retaining wall.
Okay, that's what I want to
And
know.
the dirt will be filled right up to it. but
The
that's-
foundation will be the back wall, will be
Right.
the wall. That's what I
right.
thought you were going to do.
So there won't be any
Yeah.
strange little alley.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah, good, yeah.
That makes sense.
That was actually some of the process going through the Conservation Commission. We had to maintain drainage from the front of the lot to the back of the lot. So as the Conservation Commission approved the plan, there presently is a gap between the proposed building and the existing retaining wall. What we've been talking about with the neighbors next door is that's in no one's interest. I'll provide drainage, a drainage pipe and crushed stone behind the building, the proposed building and the retaining wall, and Jim's designed the building to act as a new retaining wall, okay? So everything will be graded into the new building. I'll provide drainage behind the back. We'll have to go in front of the Conservation Commission again, but it was a point of discussion with the commission, and the way they base their decision, if there was any changes, and we made a resolution with the condominium association, we'd come back before them. So that way we'll eliminate the wall that's really in structural failure. Master On's paid some structural engineers to come in. There's documentation saying the wall's in failure, so this will, and it's not even his wall.
Makes it even bigger problem for him.
Right,
Yeah.
but so now we believe we've come to a mutual agreement. I don't think it's in writing yet, but it should be shortly.
I'm sure your attorney's working on that.
More than likely.
Any board members have any further questions or comments?
All set.
I think it will help your parking lot in the back there, being up there in the past, Jim, you know?
Yes,
Looking at
greatly.
it, I mean,
Right.
you pick up the green space, would be nice, you can fix the wall, would be nice, you know? Like you said, getting in and out of the site, be a lot more defined.
Right.
Where now it's, I know, like Jerry said, and I've been in the past, you pull up, some people park on the side of the building, some people park on the back, some people park by the street. You really have to be careful pulling in and out for traffic congestion.
The other nice part of it from a streetscape standpoint is that all the parking's gonna be in the back,
Yeah.
and you're barely gonna see it, because you're gonna have the big building in the front, the new building on the side, and so, yeah, it's a wide open parking lot, but you're barely gonna see it.
I think it's a lot safer, too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Right.
So we hope
Good
to be
luck.
back to you
Yeah.
soon. Actually, we're
Okay.
gonna try to get in for the December 17th meeting, but we just couldn't quite squeeze it together. I know Aaron, I had told him that I was gonna get a filing up, but so we'll be back probably in January, after
good.
the new year, as they say. We'll give you a rest through the,
I'm sure there's other things to keep us busy, but we look forward to seeing you in the future, and good luck with it.
Appreciate the thought.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
thank you very much.
Moving along, we have matters under old business, which was letter of credit, which we handled earlier in the evening. The other matter is the green building discussion. The board will continue discussion of the Green Building Commission established by the City Council and potential representative from the board. At the last meeting, we received several notices in our package from Aaron from Division of Planning and Development about how we can incorporate matters of the green building into our site plan review in the future. Also, we were informed that the city manager has held the position available to any of the board members, whether they would like to be appointed to this board. At the last meeting, we didn't have a full board, so we wanted to wait till tonight's meeting to see if anybody would like to step forward and become a representative to the Green Building Commission. Saying that, anybody have any discussion on this matter?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Gendron.
Yes.
We were gonna do it when you weren't here, but we decided to wait for you.
He's interested, let him do it.
That'll teach me to miss a
Yeah,
meeting.
you do it.
Come back and I'm on another board.
I'd like to second that nomination.
Motion is made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chairman, for
choice.
taking on the Green Commission.
It's not easy
I didn't
being
say
green.
a word, but okay, I'll take it.
Yeah. Moving along, the other matter, we have other old business. We have A&R reports. I didn't see any in the packet. James, we have none for consideration?
None this time, nope.
We did have the notices from abutting towns. We received a few in our packet tonight. Any board members have any comments on those? If not, entertain a motion to place them on file.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to place them on file.
Second.
Notices from abutting town.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Moving along, do we have any general correspondences from any of the board members are concerned? Hearing none, we'll move along to the zoning Board of Appeals legal notices. Again, these are matters that come before us for recommendation only. These matters will be before the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals on November 26, 2007, starting at 6:30 p.m., and those meetings are held here in the City Council chambers. The first matter is a matter for variance, which is Maureen Scanlon, and the property is located at 34 Carroll Parkway, and it is zoned suburban, single-family zone. The petitioner wants to construct an attached garage with insufficient side yard setback to requirement of Article 5, Section 5.1, Table of Dimensional Requirements. It appears she wants to put an addition on, and then also put the garage on the left side, and she needs a total of, I think it's 10 feet from the lot line, and she would only have 3, I believe.
3-some, yeah, 22.
She has a narrative in here, and she does have a plan for our consideration. So she would be on her, looking at the plan to the left, would be that she's gonna put a 22-foot proposed garage, where she has 19 feet now on the side yard, and reduce that down. Now she'd only have 3 feet from her abutting neighbor. And on the zoning, she'd need minimum of 10. Because she'd have enough on the other side. It looks like she also wants to put proposed addition in a proposed screen room on the back right. That appears to be in conforming because she has a side yard. There's a shed in the middle. I'm not sure if that's staying or going because the proposed addition kind of jots out into that property a little bit. It looks like she wants to put 2 rooms there, and what she needs is the garage. I mean, if she could almost put the garage in the back where the shed is, she could be conforming. You know, pull the driveway in there, take a right, you pull into where the shed is, you go into your new addition, you go into your proposed screen room, and it looks like everything will be right there, but putting the garage where it is now, she'd be 3 feet to the bottom line, and that's where she would need the variance.
The thing I say, looking at this, Mr. Chairman, is the garage is set back from the front of the house, so you really drive down the driveway to basically the rear of the home. So I think in the drawings that they provided, as well as the scale, it's a ranch, and the scale looks like it's not going to be dominate the main structure and really be set back. Clearly, driving through that neighborhood, it's your classic post-World War II type of development, and I mean, I certainly don't think it's not in keeping. Obviously, again, I think the abutters, their driveway is on the same side. I think it may have minimal impact on them. Yeah. The abutter to the left, their driveway runs parallel with this driveway. I don't think visually I don't think it detracts from the neighborhood. And it's not a 2-story structure that you're looking down onto your neighbor's backyard. I think I always have concern with that, but I wouldn't have a problem recommending approval for this.
Okay. And if the scale holds, it looks like the dwelling to the left is a good 20 feet off the lot line,
Yeah,
so it's
it's
not as
gotta
though, you know, they were 10
Right.
feet off the line, and now you're
Right
really
where they're
close.
on.
Right.
Even the new proposal will be 20-plus feet away from the dwelling, so I would agree with you there.
Mr. Chairman, it is only 3 feet from the line, though, which is pretty tight, you know. Again, this is one of those things that I think it really depends upon the feelings of the neighbor to the left. You know, if the neighbor to the left comes to the meeting and say, I don't like it being 3 feet away, then obviously it shouldn't be approved.
If he doesn't like it, it's not going to happen.
No, exactly. So, so that's tight. I mean, I feel a little uncomfortable about recommending approval on something that's so close to the property line. Maybe we could put the caveat in there, depending on the feedback of the neighbor.
Acceptable to the direct abutter, or something like that.
Sure.
That's appropriate.
Jerry, would you be comfortable amending your motion to say you're in favor, as long as it's
Okay with the neighbor.
I think
okay with
there's-
the neighbor to the left who's going to be most affected than anybody else?
I think that's very reasonable.
If they're in favor?
Sure, that's very reasonable, Mr. Chairman, no problem
The
amending
motion
that.
is, planning board, motion made by Mr. Fischett is recommend approval with the caveat, hopefully it meets the concerns with the neighbor to the left. Having that said, and second by Mr. Claremont, all in favor, say aye.
Right.
Chair votes yes, so we recommend 5-0 in favor with that caveat. The next matter we have is a special permit for a sign. The applicant is Chung Inc., and this is at 308 Westford Street, and this is a neighborhood business. It is to allow the installation of internally illuminated of a wall sign in a Hong Kong restaurant according to section 6.3.29 of the zone ordinance. I didn't receive a copy of this sign in my packet, so I'm gonna look at yours.
That's it right here.
Okay. So this is not for the sign.
As a comment, this looks like it's gonna be one big sign.
Yeah, it might be, it might be a little overwhelming. You don't know what's around here.
Well, you look at the sign that's up
I
there
would
now,
look
which
for
is right
guidance
above the
from
door, and this
DPW.
goes end to end from the building, which
that
runs
could
about
be-
43 feet.
Could be a real eyesore.
So, we haven't had a review from a sign person, did we?
Yeah, I think it needs to be.
We didn't get a review for this one, no.
Yeah, really, look at the size of it.
In essence, the building is the sign, is really what it,
About an eighth of an
it's
inch
gonna be
per foot,
internally
you're looking at
illuminated,
almost
so
3
it's
foot
gonna be,
letters.
imagine what that's gonna
That's
look
pretty
like.
big,
That's
yeah.
gonna be lit up?
That is big.
And lit up, yeah.
Wow, that's gonna be bright. You won't need a night light in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think.
Mr. Chairman, in general, on these sign issues, it's always the same thing. They come to us and we say, oh, maybe we should have the sign person and DPD, you know, review it first. I wonder if is there a way we can take a look at the process on sign issues and have them go to the DPD person and come with a recommendation before they come to
That's the way
us?
it's set up.
That's the way we were doing it before.
Used to happen that
Set up
way.
that way, but we don't
That's the way
do
the
it
prior
that
was,
way.
and then we didn't, the sign person was
Sick.
not available for a while, and then, what's the status of that, Aaron? Do you know now?
What I can do is I can just make sure internally that whenever I get the ZBA notices and I see something that's a sign issue, I can make sure I get in touch with Diane Trett, who basically, she does the reviews on the signs. She's a landscape
Because
architect.
before,
so-
we used to get those comments before, we'd go to the zoning board of appeals most of the time, right?
Yeah, I can just make sure that I get those for your packets as they come in.
That'd be great.
If
And
that's-
sometimes we just, you know, said no action because we have no review from the of the sign planner, or sometimes if the plan we're not comfortable with, they, due for lack of information from the sign planner at this point in time, the board thinks it might be too out of character for the neighborhood,
Yeah, has the potential.
you know? I mean, that's, like I say, compared to what they have now, it's just, you know, this little, about the sides of the entranceway into the doorway, and now it's gonna cover the whole frontage. You know, I mean,
I'll make a motion that we refer the item to DPD for guidance.
second that, Mr. Chairman.
motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion's approved. Moving along, next matter is the variance of Merrimack Real Estate Development, 725, 741, and 749. This is the matter that we did take up tonight on the public hearing. So we did approve that with several conditions. Those conditions will be sent along to the zoning board of appeals, and if the zoning board of appeals does approve it, they have to conform with all of our conditions and any ones that they want to put on. This is for the minimum number of parking spaces.
I'd make a motion to recommend approval on this matter.
We'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, that is approved. The next matter is another sign. This is special permit and variance for sign, Genesis LPD LLC. This is 963 Chelmsford Street. This is regional retail, and this is to allow the installation of an oversized, internally illuminated monumental sign for the Lowell provision according to section 6.3 of the zoning ordinance. This is the new provision that just been approved, it's right out there by the Chelmsford line.
Nice looking monument, it's gonna be freestanding apparently. I think from what I'm seeing, the internal illumination is just at the top, the bottom doesn't look like it's gonna be lit. It's not gonna be one of those scrolling
Oh, yeah.
sites.
No, this is good quality. You can tell.
So, but
The stone
to be
base.
consistent, I think we should refer this to the DPD design sign person and get their recommendation.
Motion is made to refer to DPD design review.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, recommendation's approved. Moving along, that completes our zoning board of appeals matters. Another old business we do have in our packet, we have a potential 208 meeting schedule and submittal deadlines for our consideration. This was given to us tonight. I don't know if you want to have a chance to look it over and we can act on it by next meeting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think there might be one holiday that falls on here, but I'd like to check that. So if we could just table this to the next meeting, have a chance to look at some of these dates and see if all board members feel that these are good dates, have a chance to look, and if we should change a date on either one of them. So if we could just, this is just for information only, so we'll put this over to the next meeting for us to digest this matter. And moving along, any further comments from any planning board members? Having none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
We hereby...
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to wish all the board members a happy Thanksgiving.
I'd like to thank Happy
Too,
Thanksgiving to
Mayor.
all the people and listening in the city of
To you,
Lowell.
Mark.
And good luck to everybody, and thank you very much for listening and watching us this evening. Thank you very much. Good night.